Good evening, everyone. My name is David Morgan. I'm Arlington's environmental planner and conservation agent. February 19, 2026 meeting of the Arlington Conservation Commission will be conducted in a remote format consistent with an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which further extends certain COVID-19 measures regarding remote participation in public meetings until June 30th, 2027. This meeting is being recorded and the recording may be made publicly available. All meeting materials can be found at the link I'm putting in the chat now. There we go. Please note that the Zoom chat feature may be used for questions and comments that contribute to the Commission's procedures, and if it's used otherwise, may be disabled at the Chair's discretion. Public comment period will follow each hearing. Commission encourages attendees to ask questions and offer comments during the public comment period. Chuck Taroni is the Commission Chair. He'll facilitate tonight's meeting. Each vote we take is conducted with a roll call vote, and we start with reviewing the agenda and taking attendance. So to you, Chuck, for that portion.
Sure. So it's 7:02. And it's February 19th, 2006. And on the agenda tonight, we have review meeting minutes of February 5th, 2006. Just go over correspondence and discussion items. We have a lot of discussion items, so I'm not going to go through all of them. Liaison reports and some discussions about other issues that have come up in between meetings. We have A through K as our discussion items. And after we get through all of that, we're going to turn to our two hearings, both for the Winchester Country Club. So with that, I'm going to take the attendance. I haven't given a good look, but let's try to start with people that are here. David White.
Here.
And Susan Chapnick.
Here.
David Kaplan.
Here.
And Mike Gildes-Game is off tonight, and Nathaniel Stevens is off tonight, and Brian McBride is also off tonight, and Chuck Taroni is here. And so associate members, we have Sarah Alfaro Franco.
Present.
And Eileen Coleman. Okay, and Eileen's not here either. All right. And so with that, we can get right into our first item for discussion, which is the minutes. February 5th, 2026.
Jackie, I don't think I looked at the minutes, did I?
I saw a lot of comments from you.
Then I
So
did.
these
I'm
minutes?
just forgetting that I did it. Okay, good. Because I wanted to make sure either, because I knew Nathaniel wasn't going to be here.
Nathaniel made comments also.
Contributed.
Oh, he did before he left. Good for him.
Yep.
All right.
So we have some additional verbiage on the 66 Dudley enforcement matter, clarifications about topics of discussion, plenty of additional clarification there. Just a little bit more info on the Milton Street request for certificate of compliance. Clarified here that it's only approximately 40,000, not 40,000 exactly, that I probably just fudged the number for the Water Bodies Working Group reserve budget, and so that's clarified.
It's in the 30s, I think.
Yeah, it's like 37 maybe. We'll see it later. Susan had some comments here on the Hills Pond update.
36.5.
Thank you. And the fishing line waste issue. a little bit of clarification about the spill on at Summer Street and Mystic Valley Parkway. Cleanup has been ongoing. Nathaniel noted that we will take up the Sims conservation restriction again in March when he's back. And then there are some finer points on the notice of intent for Winchester Country Club. This is the Greens project. And then a few more on the facilities project. And that was the end of the meeting, adjourned 9:55 p.m. Any further clarifications, edits, what have you, that I should note while we're here?
Sure. Can I get comments or motions?
I move to
For that.
approve.
David White moves to approve the February 5th meeting minutes. Second?
I'll second.
And that was David Kaplan. Susan Chapnick,
Yes,
David White,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
and Chuck Chironi says yes. All right, moving right along. Corners for Seas is available to the public. For full list of contacts, contact the conservation agent at the link that he provides in the chat. I'll call him at the town hall, or send an email, and he'll catch you up on anything that we've received or point you to the area on our website where they are. So moving on, our item number 2 is a discussion item, and as the chair's privilege, I'm going to move an item to the front. So we will hear from Laura Kiesel, Save Arlington Wildlife. Laura has a warrant article about rodenticides, and she would like to talk about that and get the commission's endorsement. And so we'll be voting on that. So Laura, take it away. And do you have, David, do you have her permission so she can present her slides?
Yeah, she should be all set.
And you guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, my mic was having a problem earlier. I just want to make sure. Okay, yeah, I will share screen. Oh, it's not letting me. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to try to be really quick. The warrant article that we have submitted is a home rule petition requesting that the towns, so it's a resolution requesting that the town submit a home rule petition to the state legislature asking to ban FGARs, or first generation anticoagulant rodenticides, in our borders, including on private property. I'm sure you all know that any pesticide we can't regulate on private property unless we have a waiver from the state. So we have to do a home rule petition. In 2022, the Arlington Town Meeting overwhelmingly voted to file a home rule petition on the second generation anticoagulants. We were the first community in the state to do that. Since we've done it, over a dozen other communities have filed a home rule petition on SGARs, though. And I think another 10 or so are currently going through it in their town meetings now. And this inspired state legislation to be proposed a year ago in January 2025 to ban both generations of anticoagulants, both the first and second generations in the state. So a little bit about FGARs. The FGAR stands for the first generation anticoagulant rodenticides. It includes difascinone, chlorofascinone, and warfarin. Just like the SGARs, it works by interfering with the production of vitamin K in the body, which is critical for clotting blood. So basically an animal, whether it's a rodent or another animal that consumes it, either directly or secondarily, will die by bleeding to death if they get enough of this in their system. The rodents have to, for the first generations, the rodents have to feed repeatedly over the course of many days or weeks before they will get a lethal dose of it. However, the whole reason we have second generation anticoagulants is because the rodents have already, for decades now, developed a pretty robust resistance to these first generations. So it doesn't really work very well in killing them. So they can have a very high level of these FGARs in their system by the time a predator eats them. And the predators do not have this kind of biological resistance that the rodents have. So there's that mismatch that makes it very deadly for predators. So FGARs, a lot of people think that, oh, they're not as big of a problem as the second generation, but a series of studies in recent years, the science is catching up and finding that they're still pretty potent. There was a series of studies on American kestrels and eastern screech owls, both of which reside in Arlington, that found that they were very sensitive to difascinone and exhibited lethargy, hemorrhaging, and death very quickly at a rate 30 times more sensitive than the birds often use in laboratory for this kind of toxicity testing. And then there was another study a few years ago that found that chlorofascinone, the other FCAR, interfered with the thermal regulation in hawks. So in other words, it was hard for them to maintain their body temperature, so they could overheat or die in frigid temperatures much more easily if they had that in their system, especially if they were already struggling with other rodenticides in their system. There was also a really groundbreaking study almost a decade ago in California that found that bobcats that had difascinone in their system were significantly more likely to have severe and fatal cases of mange. It was like compromising their immune system, and this was making them more likely to get this mange. And in some parts of California, it was leading to a 75% decline in those in the species. And actually, it was this study that led to California. So California has the SGARs on a moratorium, I think, since 2020 or 2021. But 2024, they added difascinone to their moratorium, and it was because of this study in particular. In the Boston metro area, so the reason why I really wanted to do something about FGARs is I work very closely with wildlife rehabilitators who test the animals that are dying in their care. And then my organization, Save Massachusetts Wildlife, also funded dozens of necropsies between 2024 and 2025. And I started noticing FGARs, especially the difascinone and chlorofascinone, were creeping into the animals, into their liver panels, especially for raptors. In the past 2 years. And there was one time in January 2024, over a 4-day period, where 6 birds of prey were found dead in the area, 3 of which were in Arlington proper. And they had, in addition to SGARs, they had the FGAR chlorofascinone in their system. And this was notable because we had just had some unseasonably warm weather, and then temperatures plunged into very, very cold temps, like, near like low teens or single digits. And again, it sort of lended some credence to that study that found that if an animal has chlorofascinone in its system, especially with the SGARs, it can disrupt their thermoregulation and they can die. And I've seen that a few other times in some other tests we've done recently, but that one was very notable. 2 of those were red-tailed hawks in Arlington, and 1 was a barred owl. And then there was a huge escalation. So in spring 2025, several residents noted in East Arlington that there seemed to be denning gray foxes near St. Paul Cemetery. Gray foxes are very rare in the state. And then in mid-July, also only a few months later, a dead gray fox was reported to Save Arlington Wildlife. We worked with a veterinary clinic to pick that animal up and necropsy it. The necropsy found massive internal bleeding in this fox with no, in the abdominal cavity with no other trauma accredited. That's usually what anticoagulants cause. But what was surprising, and this is the study, is this was the first time I saw an extremely high lethal range of an FGAR rather than an SGAR as the primary poisoning agent in Arlington. So even though this fox also had an SGAR in its system, the primary poisoning agent was chlorofascinone, almost 700 parts per billion. just as a range of, so usually 100 parts per billion starts lethal range in birds of prey, 200 to 300 parts per billion for mammals. And so this fox had double, almost triple that of just the chlorofascinone, as well as an eschar. So New England gray foxes, again, are very rare in our state in general, but especially in urbanized habitats like Arlington. And also last year, around the same time that this fox actually turned up dead, it was listed by the state of Massachusetts as a species of greatest conservation need. Anticoagulant rodenticides was listed as one of the more prominent factors threatening it, as well as canine distemper. And there is a study coming out in a couple of months that has found that gray foxes that have either FGARs or SGARs in their system are much, much, much more likely to get and die from canine distemper. FGARs are also extremely deadly to pets and children as well. Companion animals like cats and dogs regularly get poisoned by these, especially difascinone, because it's the most frequently applied and purchased poison on the market. Unlike the SGARs, the FGARs are still widely available over the counter in general hardware stores. And while SGARs rates of child poisonings have decreased, again, because the EPA actually pulled them from general consumer stores, the exposure rates for FGARs in children have actually increased between 60 to 80% in the past decade. And disproportionately, those are low-income children of color, which makes this an environmental justice issue as well. This is why in 2024, my Save Arlington Wildlife and a handful of other environmental advocates and wildlife rehabilitators worked with Harvard Law School. They represent us pro bono, and they filed a petition with the state to ask that the state suspend registration of all anticoagulants, both the first and second generations. And that's still pending. Actually, next month, the state will be having a virtual hearing about that petition. Other precedents for adding FGARs to our consideration is after initially prohibiting only the SGARs, California added all the FGARs to their moratorium. As I stated, they first had difascinone in 2024, and then last year they added the other remaining 2 FGARs. And currently the proposed state legislation in the Massachusetts State House seeks to prohibit both classes, both the second and generations. So this would, if we file this home rule petition, would align us with the state legislation and the legal petition in the state. The one thing I just also want to mention, we also have a companion warrant right now, but it's not going to be coming up at the select board. It's going straight to town meeting, which seeks to also ban the FGARs on the public properties of Arlington. It's a non-binding resolution because ultimately town meeting doesn't have that authority. It's the town manager. But we do want the FGARs banned on public property as well. It's not currently being used, but it has been used in the past 2 years on our municipal properties. The only difference is for the public property one, we also are requesting that the town add bromethalin, which is not an anticoagulant. It is a neurotoxin, but it is also bioaccumulative and has been increasingly found in birds of prey and mammalian predators. And it was implicated in the death of a bald eagle here in Boston Metro in Saugus, actually right around the time that we lost our bald eagle, MK. It is a PFAS. And similar to the FGARs, pet deaths and child poisonings from bromethalin have been exponentially increasing. And unlike the anticoagulants, it doesn't have any antidote because whereas anticoagulants, because they're a vitamin K antagonist, veterinarians or people treating people or doctors treating people affected can give them vitamin K. They can give them blood transfusions. With bromethalin, if you catch it too late, and the person or animal survives, that neurological damage is permanent. It cannot be reversed. So for that reason, at least for the public lands resolution, we wanted to add it. The town is not currently using it and has not yet, but we just want to take that off consideration, considering how dangerous it is. So that's it. That's all I have of my slides. and I can answer questions.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. That was really good. Any questions from the commission? So Susan Shapnick.
Thanks, Laura. I didn't know that the FGARs were as serious as the SUGAR, so that's news to me, and I appreciate that information. I think, considering I didn't know it, and think of myself as fairly well informed, we probably need more education around that. I definitely would support um, would support you on this effort. I did have a question. You said that there's is there a bill on this on the House, or how is this being considered at the State House?
Yeah, so the State House bill that is currently pending, I think it's in Ways and Means Committee right now. It passed through the first committee. It seeks to prohibit both generations of anticoagulants, so both the second and first generations.
And do you have the bill number? Because I know that they accept comments.
Yeah, I do. I can get,
Yeah.
well, so they have different numbers because there's a House version and a Senate version, and then, they change their numbers when they get placed in different committees. So I have to get the more recent one for Ways and Means, and I can get you the one that's still, the House version, I think, is still in the Environmental Committee.
Okay.
I can get those numbers to you. And as I stated, we also have a legal petition, which is, with the pesticide board of the state, and that has a virtual hearing next month.
Okay.
And they're taking in testimony, collecting testimony written.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. So at this point, the commission is
David Kaplan has his hand up. I don't know if you saw
Oh,
that.
so sorry, David. I didn't see that. It's like right on one of the lights in the background. So go ahead and talk.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate the presentation and the information. Could you explain again what what the petition is doing? I mean, seeing how there's a bill that's under review in the state, I'm just curious what this local process is
Do
seeking to
you,
do.
do you mean the home rule petition for Arlington for the FGARs?
Sure. Yes.
So, well, so as I stated, Arlington did an SGARs home rule petition back in 2020, and we actually redid it last year because every 2 years you have to refile. So we went through the whole rigmarole with town meeting again. And since we've done that like a dozen others, but no other towns have done one on the FGARs yet. My concern is that the lobbyists are going to work to strip the FGARs out of the state legislation. I've heard there's already pressure. I just feel like the more communities start stepping up and saying, well, FGARs are a problem too. Like I said, when we did it in 2022, the science had not caught up yet, as that FGARs were also pretty bad. We didn't have a casualty in our town that was, primarily due to FGARs. We didn't see that data yet. But now that it's happening, I just, last year actually when we redid the home rule petition, I had asked the proponent if she would add FGARs in. So we could just do all it in one home rule petition, but she was just didn't want to do that. She felt like it might compromise the chances it has. And out of respect for her, I didn't want to push it. So I figured we'd do a separate one next year. It's more, home rule petitions have very hard uphill climbs at the State House. I think of it as a pressuring mechanism to tell the state this is a problem too and help support the state legislation, which is asking for both generations. So I'm sorry if that's a long-winded answer.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm a little ignorant of the process, so I appreciate your taking the time to explain it. So the home rule petition will allow Arlington the ability to ban it on public and private property. Is that what
Yes.
you were saying at the
Well,
beginning?
we can ban it on our public property, and that's why we have a separate resolution warrant that asks the town manager to do public property as well. And just to let you know, I've spoken to Jim Feeney several times in the past year, including a year ago when I was thinking of doing the public lands ban, and he said he was fine with doing that, but he just has not pulled the trigger. And it's a year later, so I just feel like now we're going to do a warrant article. But for private property in the state of Massachusetts and in most states in the country, there's pesticide preemption laws, which does not allow a municipality to ban pesticide use on private property without a special state waiver or permission. So a home rule petition is basically asking for that waiver. This is what we did with the Escars because we lost our two bald eagles and we said, hey, we can't ban this stuff on private property, which is the majority of where it's being used. Like the cemetery where those bald eagles were nesting were private property and they all had bait stations. And it's saying now the same thing about the FGARs.
Okay. All right. No, thank you. And so this is just giving Arlington like the ability to, if they wanted, or is it, if this home rule passes, it's an automatic ban, or is there going to be, I guess, a conversation on like exemptions and things like that? I mean, just quickly looking at the California, it looked like there's some exemptions for public health emergencies, water supply, things like that. So it's not, is that a later conversation to be had?
Well,
after
yeah,
the-
so the state legislation right now is we like as it is proposed, it may change before it passes, but right now we don't really have any exemptions because it's very strong. California has a lot of exemptions, including agriculture, and they're still having a lot of wildlife poisonings. So the state legislature, the only exemption it has is for a public emergency. It's like 2 weeks public emergency. You can use it in indoor use for these sort of, but there's no carve outs for specific sectors like there is in California. Now that could change. Regarding Arlington's home rule petition, if we pass this resolution in town meeting, then it gets filed as state legislation and has to go through everything that any other piece of state legislation goes through. I've already spoken to Sean Garbely, who's been a very strong champion on the SCARs, and he's the one who filed the SCARs home rule petition. He's all for doing one on FGARs as well. So that's what that step would be.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's all I got for now.
All right. Seeing no other hands, I'm looking for a motion or more comment from commission members.
Laura, what are you looking for from us? Are you looking for a vote of support? Are you looking for a letter? What are you looking for from the Conservation Commission?
Yeah, it would be great if, so this came up quicker than I thought. So select board hearing for the home rule petition is Monday. If I could at the least mention if Conservation Commission can vote, that Conservation Commission endorses this. If you can write a letter Monday, that's great, but I understand that's a very tight turnaround, but even being able to say, the Conservation Commission supports this would be helpful. For the town-wide prohibition one, that we have more time because that just goes straight to town meeting, so that'll probably come up in May. But it would be great to list Conservation Commission as supportive of that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. But we haven't seen the warrant article, so maybe we should do that at a second vote.
Yeah.
And just leave this clean as a vote for supporting the home rule petition to ban the FGARs.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're looking for a vote of support and a motion to start.
Yeah, I don't feel like I have enough information to make a decision on that now. I mean, I think for the purposes of our jurisdictional resource areas, I feel comfortable supporting that because we have similar bylaws on there. But, I would just like to hear from public health and everybody else. I'd like to hear from more people about this issue since I'm just hearing about it now. at this meeting just 5 seconds ago. So
Okay, so we still need a motion to move forward. Does someone want to?
Well, I would make a motion to
Uh,
support. I hear what you're saying, David, so you could vote no. But I would make a motion to support this banning of FGARs,
Yeah.
as Laura explained.
So rodenticide warrant article endorsement. That's what the language I found.
But I thought this
So-
wasn't the warrant article, Laura. Now I'm confused.
I'm confused too.
No, there's two warrant articles. So
Oh.
one is to file a home rule petition to ask to ban it on private property as well as public. So where it would go into the state legislature. And that's the one that's coming up quickly. Like that's the one that the select board
That's the
is having
one
a hearing.
Monday.
Yeah,
Okay.
Monday. And then the
Home rule.
second one is a non-binding resolution, basically asking the town manager to also do this on the public properties as well,
Got it.
along
Got
with
it.
Madeline.
Got it. So I guess my question is, should we do both together, Chuck, or should we just do one and then the other at a later time?
Yeah, yeah, we haven't heard from David White, but I think that to me they can be voted on together. David, do you have a preference with that?
I think separately makes it cleaner.
David wants it cleaner, so let's do that with David. Go ahead, Susan, make a motion on.
Okay, I make a motion that the Conservation Commission supports the warrant article for a home rule petition in Arlington to ban FGARs as we have banned SGARs in the past.
I'll
Can I get a
second that one.
second? It's David White seconds. We'll run down through the vote. So, David Kaplan,
abstain.
Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
and Chuck Teroni says yes.
So what happens if he abstains instead of saying no when we only have 4 people, which is a quorum? Does an abstain still count for the quorum?
Show the quorum.
We still have a quorum. David Morgan, can you help us out with this?
I think David White is correct. It's majority of members present, voting members present.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Susan, you have another
Yeah, I'll make a
motion?
second motion to support the warrant article for banning FGARs on public lands in Arlington, requesting that the town manager support this as we have done for SGARs.
David Kaplan,
Abstain.
I think he needs seconded.
Oh, you need
yeah,
to
yeah,
second it,
sorry. Can
David.
someone second that for me?
I'll second it, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll keep the surprise till the end. Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
David White,
I'll say yes to that.
David Kaplan,
Abstain.
and Chuck Teroni says yes. Okay.
So Laura,
Laura.
I did have
Yeah.
one more question if you're still there.
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay. Have you presented this to the Board of Health?
Yeah, so I mean, I've met with them a couple of times about this. So they're not using bromethylene or FGARs right now. They said they had no intention of using it anytime soon. They don't give a position of how they feel, but that's what they said. And they said they had spoken with Jim Feeney and they were open to that, but Jim had to pull the trigger for the public lands ban.
Right.
And he just hasn't, and it's been a
Okay.
year. And for the home rule petition, they don't get involved because it's really about what town meeting says.
Mhm,
So
yeah.
they just are like, we're not weighing in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on. So Laura, thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on our discussion agenda is an enforcement order for 6660 Dudley Street, 993 Mass Ave, which is continued until March 5th. Moving on, we have a vote. Before we bring up this vote on Arlington Coal and Lumber for a request for for use of the conservation parcel. David Morgan, is that the only thing that we're doing with this here tonight, or is there more to this? I just want to make
That's
sure
it
it's
tonight.
presented correctly.
Yeah, there's a forthcoming notice of intent, hasn't been filed yet, and we wanted to address this issue before that filing was made, so.
Yes, but we're not doing a working session. This is just specifically about that conservation land.
Right.
Okay.
We can have further discussion based on what the commission decides on this vote tonight.
But in the future.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. All right, so we have a vote on Arlington Coal and Lumber as a request to use conservation land parcel. And with that, I don't know who's here for that. So if you could just raise your hand, whoever's leading this, and then introduce yourself for the record and the team you came with.
Chuck, I was gonna just present it for the commission, but Limhut is on, I believe. Who's with
Yeah,
the-
what's this? Did we get this letter from Goldsmith, Priest, and Ringwall? Are they here tonight?
Yes.
Are they representing that?
Yeah, I heard of this.
Okay. So do
Um,
you, whoever's here for that, do you have anything to say about this piece of conservation property? Of course, it's conservation property. The deed quite clearly says that it was for conservation. It was turned over to the Conservation Commission for conservation purposes. And I'm sure you're well aware that the DEP and the Conservation Commission does not grade our conservation property. It's all Class A, no matter how it appears to others. There are no like a discounting mechanism in our regulations or the WPA. So I don't know if you have a plan, but might be nice to show us the plan, or maybe David Morgan could help with that if we don't have a plan.
yes, David, would it be possible to share? Oh, there we go. For the record, my name is Limhutiv. I'm an engineer at Goldsmith Press and Ringwall, GPR for short. And I'm here tonight as a representative for Arlington Coal and Lumber. And really to keep it brief, we're here tonight just seeking permission to do work on that particular parcel. The parcel in question is located at the northernmost point of where we're looking to repave an existing, degraded asphalt area that's been topped off with gravel for the past.
Where precisely is this parcel? Can you outline it on the map?
Do I
I'm
have-
gonna change from the
Pretty much
plan view.
mid-screen.
I
I'm
think
gonna show you
David could
something
show us
different.
that. So because we do need to
Yeah.
orient the commissioners on where is the conservation land.
So that triangle there, you're saying?
Yep, so that is the parcel in question, and that's at the intersection of Park Ave and Mass Ave up in the Heights. There's Mill Brook naturally, and this is the Arlington Coal and Lumber property to the north. They also own these two buildings on Mass Ave, and it might be helpful to see the actual aerial. In this case, I only estimated the placement and the size of the parcel here, but gives you a sense of where it's located.
800 square feet,
Approximately.
800,
For me.
800 approximately.
Yeah,
And so
Anyway.
to clarify a little bit further, we're not looking to repave the entire parcel, obviously, because that parcel is portion of the river as well, the brook. There's only a small portion where you have existing degraded asphalt on site, because we're going in to replace the broken up asphalt on the parking area. We figured we might as well just extend that repaving effort to kind of include that little small triangle. Ultimately, if the town chooses not to allow us to do that, we would just cut the repaving short, just shy of the property line. and then, go from there.
Sure.
Paving there now, there's some paving there now.
There is, yes.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything more to it than that as far as kind of a setup on our question. And except to ask is what's been previously paved is all you want to pave in the future, or do you want to pave the whole parcel?
Not the whole parcel, only the limit where we have broken up asphalt that's been topped off by gravel. We
Okay.
are restoring a strip of, I guess, broken up asphalt area, as well as um, the structural barrier that is set along Mill Brook on the, northern side of that parking area.
Hmm.
So we are providing or removing impervious area to provide a strip of buffer where we can do planting adjacent to Millbrook.
Yeah. Okay. I see two hands up, but David Kaplan, I saw his hand first.
All right, thank you. Does anybody know the history of this parcel and what its intent was and how it came to be broken up asphalt and gravel and why we're
Yeah, I can have some history to it.
okay, thanks, David.
Okay. I understand the town took some properties for tax purposes, back taxes, and gave them away to the Conservation Commission. So basically, it's a lot of pieces of property around town. They're taken for taxes, given to the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
It's not really asked for, but we got it.
Hmm.
I can
And
add a
so-
little more context if you
Yeah.
like. And Jackie uncovered some of the specifics here. I know that this one in particular was awarded first via the select board to Concom, and then the town meeting voted on it. And the wording of the vote at town meeting was for conservation purposes, more or less pursuant to what I think is the Conservation Commission Act. And I've inquired with legal in the past, does an act of town meeting ruling on ownership of a parcel specific for the purposes of open space, recreation, or conservation automatically afford that parcel Article 97 protections? I think it does, but I haven't gotten confirmation of that from legal. So that's a bit more background on how it, like the process through which it came to be owned by Concom. And I could add additionally that I have had a conversation with the owner of Arlington Coal and Lumber, or at least a representative, and thought at first maybe we could dispense of this parcel. It's an odd holding. It's very little conservation value, etc. I felt like maybe that was a possibility, but with this question of Article 97 hanging over our heads, I think that's not likely to be on the table. And so when the NOI conversation got started, they raised the prospect of requesting authorization to perform work there instead of, going full bore with a purchase. And that's how we got to this conversation.
Yeah, David, I couldn't disagree with you more. I think that, as it says in the WPA under the Riverfront Act, that areas closest to the river are the most and most valuable habitat that that the river can have, and they direct us to restore those areas first and move all the projects away from those areas. So anything close to the bank of the river is important. Again, that's probably why I started out with, look, I understand, I've been here for a while. I know what that parcel looks like, but in theory, it's an important piece. And that's how the WPA sees it. Now, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to actually try some sort of swap, which looks like it makes sense at this point, where we need 2 to 1 and we need a whole host of processes to happen. But yeah, this is in the wrong spot and we don't have enough land, enough time to do this. But an area closest to the stream, if that was swapped over for this piece of parcel, that would make a lot of sense. And you're already planting half of that right now. I think you just have to do a lot more homework, and most of that homework with the select board and legislature. But yeah, Susan Chapnick, you have your hand up, and I know that in our prep meeting we looked at this on an aerial, so I do hope you're going to talk about what we saw.
So my concern, I have several concerns. One, if it is really Article 97 land, you're gonna have to go through some legal hoops. If the applicant is going to have to go through a lot of legal hoops to be able to do this, and it may not be worth it because it's very difficult to get the state to allow us to do anything with Article 97 land other than open space, conservation, recreation. So that's protected land. Whether this little parcel should have been that or not, we can't go there right now. It is what it is. And it's likely that's it. David Morgan hasn't gotten a ruling from the town council yet, but I bet since it was voted on in town meeting, it's Article 97. So it may just be a moot point that really you can't do anything on this property without a lot of legal action, which won't be worth it. That said, my concern and maybe concerns of others on the commission, and we've had this at other properties, is that work has been done here already. If there's broken asphalt and gravel, that means that was placed there, and that was placed there likely after it was conservation land. Or was it before conservation land? You don't know.
Maybe before.
So either way, what I would say is my expectation as a commissioner would be when an NOI comes through for work in this area, because this area is riverfront, I would expect that conservation land as well as the plantings near, a buffer strip that you've recommended. I would expect that both of those are in the NOI as mitigation. That's my expectation. So I just wanted
Susan,
to
just
say
to clarify on that point, they would still need authorization by the town / the commission to perform that work. And so
to even do the cleanup. No,
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
But they would get that through the notice of intent.
Right.
They certainly can make the request within the
Right.
notice of intent, propose a mitigation plan or a planting plan, and then through our approval with the entire NOI, they would receive their permission.
isn't it necessary to file for all properties where work is going to occur at the outset? So they would need permission in advance in order to file.
Yeah, I don't know. That might be
Allow that.
splitting hairs, but you could check on that and see, but we don't have the filing right now, and they're, obviously they're hearing some direction from the Conservation Commission at this point.
Yeah, I'm happy to look into that, and I think I get the sentiment here. I think you just need the vote.
So let me put it this way, David. in riverfront area, when you have to do mitigation, if you cannot perform mitigation to the extent that you need to, so it meets the disturbance level at that site, you're able to go upstream or down. We are mitigating downstream in this location, although it's basically the abutting property. I feel like it's allowed under that clause. Okay? Do you recognize what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Presumably that permission, as you said, would happen through the hearing process.
I'm not thinking that someone's going to call us out if the applicant, and that is in there. We've done that before, where we couldn't find mitigation on property. They had to go, upstream to do something. Anyways, you can also still look into it, but I'm pretty satisfied about getting this spot repaired, if that could be it. If they can't use it, it might as well be revegetated and protected. I lost track, but I believe David White, if that's
You
all right,
say-
yeah.
Old pavement should be removed. It should be cleaned up.
Yeah, sure. And David Kaplan?
Yep, just Mike. I also agree with you, Chuck, and David that ultimately this parcel, if it's conservation land, it should be restored and revegetated. So I'm not inclined to give them permission to extend their pavement onto the conservation property.
Sure. Okay, and then for GPR, this is redevelopment, and the first step is that you make an improvement. And I believe, so the improvement can be a couple of different things. And I think if we're into this question, I'm wondering about the infiltration and why was that put in? Is that a requirement of the town, or is that something that um, you're doing to, mitigate, I guess, runoff and erosion?
Um, I can certainly answer that question, but I'd like to just kind of stay focused on the, I guess, main subject of the discussion, really. Like, kind of going back to the topic
Sure,
of
then
that
hold
piece of
on a
land.
second, let me finish. So what I was going to say is that if you're required by the town to put in that mitigation, then you can't use it, and that stormwater, and for our stormwater standards, then you can't use it as an improvement. And so you're still looking for an improvement on this project, although it's not one improvement, one and done. So the Conservation Commission has the right to have improvements commensurate with the size and scope of the project. So with that, I just kind of finished my thought. You can take over from here and continue talking about your project.
Thank you. Going back to that piece of land, so from what I'm hearing, is, it sounds like the best course of action from here is just to limit our proposed work or limit a work area to exclude that piece of land and go from there. So I appreciate everybody's answer and discussion regarding the topic. As far as the infiltration area is concerned, it is an improvement proposed by the owner. They have some issues with wet basement in the two main buildings where the parking lot is located. So it is an effort to take direct roof discharge and putting into the ground so that it's just not, spilling over the parking area and just going overland flow towards the Millbrook. As far as improvements, the area that we're looking at is considered impervious area under the Town of Arlington stormwater regulations, as well as under the Mass Stormwater Handbook. We are looking to remove the total impervious area on site, effectively, reducing peak runoff rates and volume just by the act of removing the total impervious area on site. And in addition to that, provide the improvement of having these groundwater chambers so that we get rid of the additional overland discharge from the roof drain onto this pavement area and trying to get into the ground as much as we can before allowing it to continue to discharge in the same drainage pattern that it does today. That's really it.
Well, again, and this is for a future project that hasn't been that's not in front of the commission yet. So I like the idea of limiting this conversation to the ask of what to do on the conservation property. Thank you.
I think he was just answering Chuck's question, but I agree with you, David, because we don't have a plan. So I feel like I can't comment on the stormwater.
All right, so I guess we have our answer and we have a pretty full agenda tonight. So if that's that.
Do we need to take a formal vote or are we okay with what we did?
I don't think we were just asked a question. I mean, I don't think we need a vote on this. We're just getting direction from the commission.
Right, as long as the applicant, you understand, it seems like you understand where we're going and what you need to do for the NOI.
Definitely, and I appreciate
great.
the discussion.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
great. You're welcome.
Okay. Moving along, our next item on the agenda is Forest Street. So there's some fencing discussion and compliance. So I don't know where we are with, is this someone here to present this project? Please introduce yourself for the record and let us know about your project here, which is Forest Street. It doesn't have an address, just Forest Street?
40-42 Forest Street.
Okay.
My name's Kristen Germano, and I was the realtor. I sold the property.
Okay. And you're here tonight for a request for certificate of compliance or?
Yes.
Okay. Kristen, is it, if I turn to you and ask you to bring us the commission up to date on everything that's happened on this project, with this request,
Chuck,
would you be the right person, or would that be David Morgan?
Yeah, I really would prefer if our agent presented
Susan,
certificates of request, but okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Susan. I just wanted to, since they had the floor, kind of work it in. So it sounds like David is going to give us the update. So David, can you bring us forward a little bit on this one here? This is Forest Street.
Sure, I'll pull up the map as I'm talking about it. So 4042 Forest Street is an NOI that we awarded, I want to say 1 or 2 years ago. And it's this property here. Show you the map. Right up against Millbrook, also in the Heights. This is just off of Mass Ave by Swifty Printing, if you want a landmark. So let's go up a bit. Here's Mass Ave in the Heights, the Mass Ave in Appleton intersection there. And then you go north past Pierce Street, down Forest. There's the property in question. I'll show you the jurisdictional areas because that's the important part of this conversation. It's everything. But more specifically, I will turn off the riverfront and other buffer areas and show you there's a floodway in the backyard, floodplain extending up to the structure. At least this was before the revision last summer. which I think had set this back somewhat, but it remains with floodway in the backyard and floodplain extending closer to the building. So the application was for the structure, driveways, appurtenances at the front of the lot, and there was restoration required in the backyard. I don't believe fencing was part of that conversation, but it was installed as part of the redevelopment, and it is vinyl stockade fencing, effectively a wall, and it being in the floodway, that poses significant problems for direction of floodwaters and maintaining compliance with our National Flood Insurance Program, since zoning prohibits construction in the floodway. And so I guess there are a couple issues with the fencing. Obviously, the first and most salient is that it is in the floodway, and then there's also the mitigation / restoration area in the backyard that, if memory serves, is fenced in, and I'm not sure about access to that. Perhaps somebody more familiar with the property can speak to it. And we've tried to sort of come to some resolution about the fencing there, but it's been difficult. The property's changed hands, there are new owners, and so forth. So, it's just a difficult thing to coordinate. The bottom line, I think, is that if you were to raise the fences above the flood elevation in this location, you'd have a fence floating above the ground that would look ridiculous and serve basically no purpose. So it seems to me that the fence either needs to be replaced with something that would allow water to pass through it when it overtops Millbrook rather, or be removed. And I guess the final point is, we've been talking about these areas in the back, sort of where my cursor is now. There's also, again, I'm going from memory here, one running down the middle of the property, and I think one at the southern edge here, but I would ask for clarification from one of the representatives on those points.
There is a blockade fence in the center separating the 2 yards. There are 2 condominiums there now, 2 townhomes, a front one and a back one. In the rear, there were plantings done that were needed for mitigation that we agreed upon. The fencing, first you have the brook, then you have the plantings, and then you have a picket fence. We did try to raise that as best we could. We did also try to raise the blockade fence in the center. And due to, we had reliable fence out there, they were not comfortable raising that. They thought it was going to be a hazard. So the rest of the fencing is picket, which we did. It's not high. We did try to lift that as best we could. It's the centerpiece that is for privacy between the 2 units. I don't know the last time you were out there, David. I know you did go out there before.
Yeah, it's been ongoing for a while. I don't recall the last visit that I made out there. I think maybe even Jackie might have been there more recently than I've been.
Yeah, I put some photos in the folder if you want to look at those.
Do you have a picture of the perimeter fence? Because I just heard that it was picket.
I will pull up the photos that Jackie had.
Susan, you want to continue as we're waiting for these photos?
Yeah,
That's
I
the
was just
question.
going to ask, I was just trying to look through the permit. So no fences were permitted? Is that true?
No, fences were permitted.
Fences were in the permit?
Yes.
Okay. I'll wait for the pictures to ask further questions then.
There we go. So here's one. Looks like this would be the.
Yes, that's looking from the neighbor. If you're facing the street, looking at the house, that's the left side of the house.
Another view, I think this is
That's
probably
the right
from the
side.
vantage
Mhm.
of the parking lot next door. So there's the picket fence you were describing, and then the stockades there in the middle splitting the property.
Right.
So this is the restoration area we're looking at. There's a side view of the building, it looks like. The other side.
That only goes as far back as the house, and then it's open, open fencing
Yeah, there we go.
down there. Mhm.
So can you shut off whoever having a conversation in the background there, David? If you can do two things at once. Thank you.
So I think the fence in question is the one going down the middle, the rear. I'm at the middle to the mitigation area, separating the 2 yards.
Is the mitigation area accessible? Like, can you get back there to maintain it?
Not without walking around. You can get back there. We have the neighbor to our left has been watering the plantings since everything was done.
Yeah, it does.
So you can see that comparatively to the neighbor, we're looking at his fence right now. Our fence is pushed way back. So all those plantings are there.
Mhm. And so is that fence where the fence stops heading towards the stream, which I suspect is screen left,
Mm-hmm.
is the fence or is the mitigation in the floodway, or is it the floodway extends into the yard? And that would be a question for David Morgan.
Yeah, the mitigation area is in the floodway.
So when we look at that plan that you first put up, we would, where the floodway ends, we would know where the fence ends.
I don't think it's as aligned as that. I can pull up a different map of the recently remapped flood zones that we can compare if you like.
And then I just want to make sure that I got this right. So I heard Susan say that fencing is not part of the order of conditions, but I thought Kristen said it was.
Yeah, I could correct that. I've been reading it if you want me to. So the post and rail fence is there in the conditions, not the stockade fence. So the post and rail fence is there. There's one to mark, let's see, proposed post and rail fence at the eastern edge of the enhancement planting area.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was an existing picket fence that was going to be moved.
Oh.
So I don't see any, I think that's the existing picket fence that was moved. I don't know what the post and rail fence is. Maybe it's the one on the edge.
There is
But
there is a stamp plan as part of the package that has that stockade PVC fence called out. It does call it out and says that the bottom of the fence will be above elevation 107, which is the floodplain, the 100-year floodplain. So it looks, according to, so that
what are you looking at, David? Are you looking at the permit or the COC?
the plan that was in the folder with
Right. But
the
that's, I don't
proposed,
think, right, but I
is
don't
that an
think that
as-built?
was permitted.
That's an as-built versus
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Here's the plan as
Oh,
submitted.
it's dated December 6th, 2022, proposed site.
Oh,
plan.
really? Okay. So maybe we didn't put it in the verbiage of the permit.
But I mean,
I don't see it here.
the way it's planned, it's to be out of the floodplain.
And Dave, are you looking at the same one that I just shared? Is this the same?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. So there's
okay, there you go. You are correct. Here it is. Stockade or PVC fence.
Oh, okay,
installed
because
above
it's not listed.
elevation
Okay.
107. And I mean, the issue then, of course, is it is not at that elevation in, as Kristen stated earlier, is that, yeah, Kristen. There was concern about that being raised up to that elevation as like a safety hazard.
right. So
If I could, it's Paul Finocchio. I'm with PJF and Associates. I did the work on the site plan and the survey work and the as-built site plan. There's actually on the site plan, there's actually 2 areas of the 100-year floodplain. If you wanted to call back up that proposed site plan again. So out towards the back, there's a dash line where it says right above the area that says shed to be removed. That's the 100-year floodplain for elevation 107. So up behind the shed, yep, that dash line going across. That's the 100-year floodplain. So the area behind that is above 107 up to the wall, then it drops off to the brook. And then it pitches down towards the house, and then slowly goes back up towards the street. And then as 3/4 of the way up to the house, there's the other area for the 100-year floodplain. So if you keep panning the picture up, right in here, you'll see a note that says floodplain 107 on the left side of the house, right below the eaves. Yeah, keep coming down. There's the area, it says floodplain's 107. Yes. So it's the area between there and that rare 100-year floodplain. That's the floodway area. And so we called for a stockade, a picket fence to be going across basically the middle of that sewer easement. And then a PVC fence running from that to the house. And the grades in there are anywhere from 107 to 106.5 on the as-built plan. So we try to maintain the grades that are in that backyard.
I'm a little bit confused, but are you saying then that this is below the elevation for the floodplain?
Yes, that area in there is about a half a foot below it's about 106.5. So it's about 6 inches lower than the 100-year floodplain.
And so the fence would only need to be raised up around a half a foot or
Correct.
so to make it compliant. And
yes,
I guess then was that what was discussed with reliable fence and posed an issue?
Correct.
Can you use a different type of fence? Sorry, I just blurted out.
Yeah.
Can it be a fence that water can go through?
well, I think the PV fence is more for a privacy fence than it is for water to flow through from one side of the lot to the other. I mean, it's not really blocking water to go from one side. Technically, it is, but
Right, but that's what we're concerned with, as you understand. I mean, we have regulations that need to be upheld. And they're for a reason, because it's in floodway. So we have to get a resolution here.
I'm not sure if they make a PVC fence that could be somewhat open, it'd be almost like a double-sided fence that's slotted that allows water to flow through. It's either that or raise the fence. The only problem, I'm not sure if the people would have a pet or a dog and the dog's gonna start digging and trying to crawl underneath that fence to get it to the other side. That may be an issue, but
Well, that was
Yeah,
what
that's-
Reliable was concerned about, children. I was out there when Reliable was installing, so we had that discussion. Because I was asking them to lift it and they would not do it.
Because, for example, if
Mhm.
you had a metal fence, what do you call that with it? Just the
A chain
grating.
link.
Yeah. It wouldn't be an issue. If you had a post and rail fence, wouldn't be an issue. So,
We're talking about the fence down the middle.
right. And I
Mhm.
understand you want privacy, but it may not be possible. That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Anyway, I will let David, I see David
Yeah,
Kaplan has his
David
hand up.
Kaplan.
Chuck.
Let's get David in there.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that was the goal of the plan. I'm sorry your fence installers decided that they didn't want to leave that half a foot open, but I think we do need to leave, that was what was proposed and that was what was permitted. I think it's very important to leave that area open for water to pass through. So I think we need to figure out a solution to it, whether it's raise the fence and put some sort of skirt if they're worried about incursions underneath the opening. It may look a little funny, or there may be some slats the bottom of the fence, maybe it could be like every other slat goes to the bottom so that there is, still privacy and an opening. I'm not sure if the commission would be open to that. But it does seem, when we're talking about a half a foot, we might be able to start playing with that a little bit. And my other question too is the town okay with a fence right in the middle of that sewer easement? That's just seems like an odd place. I know that's on the plan, but is that, are you meeting the conditions of the easement there?
well, that was sort of put on by the commission at the time. We couldn't put the fence further up, further back, and so they wanted to be somewhat of a backyard. So it was put in the middle of the easement.
Okay. All right. Well, another entity, hopefully that doesn't cause any future problems.
Yeah, Dave, that would be MWRA who would likely hold that, and they'll remove whatever's in their way in order to make a improvement. So
Right. Okay.
it's there at your own risk, basically.
Right. Okay. Well, that's, I guess that's how I feel about the stockade fence moving through the center. And I know there were some other comments too that David, you had, or Jackie, you had about, plant survivability and things like that. I don't know what the ask here is, if it's for a certificate of compliance. But I think this needs a little bit of work.
I think we're just having the conversation about what needs doing before the COC can be heard. And I think what I'm hearing at any rate, I don't know if you want to do a vote, but it seems like the sentiment the commission has is to have the fence raised up or swapped out, whatever the choice is, to meet the condition that it's not deflecting water onto the other properties in the event of a flood.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any appetite from what I'm hearing about, I guess, making an accommodation for what we originally conditioned. But I would also ask that this memo from David Morgan dated May 6, 2025 says that the monitoring shall be conducted, this is vegetation monitoring, until November of 2027. So I don't see this being resolved until at least 2027 if someone wants a certificate of compliance.
Well, that's the goal. to get the certificate of compliance. So whatever we need to do, we'll have to do.
Yeah, so when I look at that picket fence, I was disappointed when I saw the skirt at the bottom, which is probably a 5.5 inch, 6 inch skirt, which I think would prevent floodwaters from going through on the sides. I know this is kind of like an additional conversation, but to me, picket fence, that discussion started to have some possibilities. If it was like a wooden picket fence, there would be openings straight down to the turf. But the one that I saw in the pictures did have that little skirt board on it. So I don't think that, whatever accommodation happens to the center one, also the picket fence needs to be, put into, also fixed in the same way, or whatever the solution is that's resolved for this center fence.
The picket
So-
fence on the left-hand side was the neighbors, which was replaced when we were building. That was what
Yeah,
was there before.
the one that needed painting? Is that the
No,
one?
no, no. This is the one that's running down on the left side of the house if you're facing the house from the
If
street.
it belongs to the neighbors, you can't touch that. It's not part of this order of conditions. I would also say that you didn't install it.
Well, yes, we
Right.
replaced it for the neighbor.
Oh, well, then, yeah, now it is your problem. So you were supposed to put it in under those conditions in the order of conditions. So, yeah,
But that's the exact fence that was there, is all I'm saying.
The order of conditions says there was an existing wood picket fence. So a wood picket fence would have spaces for
Right, the wood
floodwaters.
picket fence was in the rear on their property, if my memory serves me, which it may not. They have one right before the drop down.
hmm,
Okay, then I'm confused because so now I'm looking at the final order of conditions and I do see the stockade fence, which is supposed to be above floodplain elevation. And I do see a post and rail fence at the eastern edge of the planting area, and then the existing wood picket fence to be moved. So I guess I'm confused what fence is what now.
Well, there was a post and rail fence there
Okay.
on our property. And then
Right.
to the left, the neighbor, before you drop down to the brook, he had a wood picket fence. But there was a vinyl fence between the two properties. A picket type fence, vinyl fence, not a blockade.
Right.
Chuck, can I ask you a clarifying question?
hmm.
This skirt that you were mentioning, this is like the lower 5 or 6 inches of the fence here, so
Yeah.
that there's like this is effectively going to block any floodwaters coming up over into the yard that would make up that difference between like the half foot that Paul described being the difference in elevation between the ground and the flood plain, right? The base flood elevation. So you're saying that it's not just the stockade fence that goes all the way down to the ground, but the picket fence that's at issue too. And as post and rail was what was approved, obviously, post and rail is literally like just the post and the rail. No pickets, no skirt. This is not what was approved. I just want to make sure I understand that that's the explanation you're giving. Is that the case?
I would be satisfied with a picket fence if it didn't have that skirt board at the bottom, because I believe it would allow floodwaters to go through, to sift through. But there may be a different style. I know it's an expensive option, but there may be a different style that doesn't have that skirt board at the bottom. but that seems to be the issue here.
I don't know if you've gone out there, but just from being out there with Reliable, they did lift the picket part. They didn't have a problem with lifting that as much as they could. So there is room underneath. They had a problem with the blockade because they thought that was a danger because it was taller. And that's where the problem really arose.
Do you have
So
a picture of that picket fence that now that it was raised up? And was it raised up 6
I
inches?
don't, I'd have to measure and go out, but they did do the best they could at raising that one. They weren't as concerned about that as they were the blockade.
See, unfortunately, the commission is talking about elevations and there's a specific number and, discussions about close enough and the best they can and all that is not going to win the day here.
Mhm.
So, it, it seems like we're still at odds about how to move forward. You have some options. The commission has, I guess I would take this as read the order of conditions and try to comply with that, whether you need to replace all the fencing. Plus there's a spot that says that you can't come back until 2027 because of the mitigation, planting and vegetation. So there's a couple of things. It seems like you might just get a different company out there and ask them. Maybe if you ask 3 companies, you might get different answers. I'm not sure what it is, but you have to meet that elevation. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but sometimes these things when we talk about here and what someone understands. I could understand the conversation about if you called up and said, "Hey, can I put in a picket fence?" And David thinking it's a traditional picket fence that doesn't have a skirt board at the bottom. Maybe that's fine in his eyes. I know that conversation didn't happen, but maybe the homeowner or the contractor had it with the fence company, and that would have been fine. But what we're seeing here is not.
I do have a question. If she picks out a different style of fence or works with it, who would she go back to talk to at the board? Or would she have to go back to a meeting and show you the style of fence? Or is there, we can talk to the administrator?
Well, I think that you'd be best to submit it to the Conservation Commission and with some pictures and say this is what you're proposing and get all David's input before that. But maybe it can just be a question where you don't have to follow up with being here. You just get a discussion item on there if we're ready to accept that, just to make sure. The only reason why I'm doing it this way is because I don't want there to be any ambiguity between what we approve and what someone else may say yes to when it gets back
Okay.
to the final COC.
All right. I understand. The other question I would have then is on the certificate of compliance that she's requesting. Is there a way that if the fence was mitigated by now, is there a way that you could hold on to, like, say, a bond on the plantings in the back? Because that was 3 years from the time of the issuance of the order of conditions.
David, have we done any accommodations on this before? I know I'm not able to think of any at the time.
Okay.
Susan has her hands up. Maybe she
We did
remembers one.
we did do a bond on a property, I think it was that hotel on Mass Ave, just right near Cambridge for
Yeah, but that
planting.
was a completely different situation
Yeah, but it was
because the
different then.
mitigation area was on DCR property. They
Right.
couldn't, they
We
had no
didn't know if they could
control over
maintain
it.
it, right.
Yeah, and so that's why we did that.
Right. But that's the one I remember. I don't know,
That's
David,
what you
has
get when
there
you've
been
been on the
another one?
commission for a while. I
Yeah,
guess all
really.
that institutional knowledge.
Yeah.
But yeah, David, do you know of anything? I mean,
I don't recall.
and David Morgan and David Kaplan, anything? Any comments on whether we would entertain?
I don't have a problem with it. I just wonder what the logistics of it is, and does it create a lot more work for our administrator? That's
So
the only
it
thing.
definitely creates a pattern of now doing this in the future
Mm-hmm.
for everyone who asks, if we haven't done it before. And so typically you might want to have a high threshold to allow such a thing. But I know I can see David's head moving, so I think he's looking for in the past if we've done this before. Well, I
To
would
my
say
recollection, we've
resolve
only
the
done
fence.
construction bonds. And, we'll have a conversation later tonight about a bond for a stormwater system. That was pre-construction that we arranged that, put it in escrow and so forth. I don't know that we've done one for plantings. I know the commission doesn't do partial certificates of compliance, and so the full suite of the conditions would need to be approved.
I was just asking, the only reason being, because I mean, there's a pretty good canopy over that area with all those trees back there, that's why, and with the plantings going in, they're gonna have to be pretty hardy that can bear minimal sunlight.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like so I guess definitely we would only consider some sort of accommodation if everything was 100% out there. If it looked like it was not going to, I mean, survive, I don't think you would get anyone to say that, yeah, we'll make an accommodation.
Okay.
These things can always be a problem. I think that the commission shouldn't ask for 3 years if they're not going to hold it up. So that might be the best answer.
Okay.
So we should think about the next time we do mitigation.
If I may, if you think that some of the species that were proposed to be planted there are not going to do well because of shade, you can propose to swap some out and just review that with the administrator, review that with David Morgan, as long as they're native species.
Mhm.
So if you need, we want the area to be healthy. We don't want you to have to plant something and waste your money that's not going to grow. So that's fine if you review it with David.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing? As far as the fence, because I'll be responsible for doing this and I just don't want to waste the developer's money again. I just want to make sure I'm clear. Is it possible then that we do keep the current picket that's there if I can have it raised? And can I remove the stockade down the center and have picket down there if it's raised?
Yeah, it seems like in theory that would work, but I would definitely make sure that David or Jackie's out there to review this as it's being installed or to at least give guidance prior to. So I want to hear it needs to be at elevation, well, 6 inches above. I forgot the elevation at this moment, but how are you going to determine the elevation for the bottom of the fence? That might be something
Yeah,
that,
the measure.
I would actually set the elevation, couple of stakes out there that they could run a string
Yeah.
across, and it'd have that elevation 107 set.
yeah, that's exactly what you need, because I was going to say, I don't know if, reliable fence is used to setting flood elevations.
Is that reliable?
Yeah, we need a reliable elevation for them to work from, so.
Mhm.
Yeah. I would just point you to also, because you don't want to come back so many times. So condition number 51 requires that you bound the mitigation, the planting area. You have some stone bounds there, something and signage to say that this is native
Yes.
habitat or something. I'm just saying that.
Yes, we have that.
Oh, okay, great. I didn't
Mhm.
see it in the pictures. Great.
Okay.
All right.
So is this something that we'll reschedule from here, or I just reach out to David just so I'm clear?
So again, you
Mhm.
can't come back until the November of 2027. So any
Okay.
conversation would be with David, but I don't expect David to put it back in front of us because I didn't hear any resolution on shortening the time of the survivability on the vegetation. So I think you're looking at November of 2027 And I think there was an 80% vegetation, 100%
Trees,
trees and
yep.
shrubs.
Yep, that's condition 49.
Okay. Paul, are you good with that? We are.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking, we pick out the style of fence,
Mhm.
send some pictures in, they can discuss it whenever. And as long as it's good, we'll go out and put the fence in at the 107 elevation, make sure it matches what's supposed to be on the plan for location, and then just go from there with the plantings, and hopefully they'll all be there in 27.
Okay. Maybe I won't.
Sounds good, though.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thanks.
So just one more quick thing. So to comment just on the timing of the replacement plantings. So we've already defined that, we don't have great survivability on, what was it? The shrubs are okay, but the tree species didn't do well. I mean, do we require seasonal replanting at each, or will they be able to plant in the fall of 2027? And I'm just curious because again, I don't.
That's my understanding. It's up to the applicant. They could replant every year and try to shorten the time span of our look back period, look back period. But some contractors, some people wait till the end because oftentimes they are alive in 3 years.
Right.
Maybe they're not dominant species, but they're going to pass the test. So I don't know what's out there, and it's your call. So if you replanted it after the first year, it would be 3 years from the time of replanting. So if you have to replant all those trees, in September of 27, you're going to be waiting longer.
Yeah, so I guess that was my question. Does it reset at each time of planting, the 3 year? Okay.
I believe it does. Yeah, I would say it does. I mean, why wouldn't it? I mean, the whole idea, this is for the applicant, the whole idea is that this was part of the allowance to allow that project in that spot. It's mitigation. It should last because so does your project. So we can't, say, oh, well, we're going to plant this area, then 5 years later it's lawn.
Okay, well, maybe we'll talk with the landscape architect on the plantings. Maybe there'd be something different if those species are dying out now as compared to what was on the.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Not to blame,
Okay.
but sorry. Thank you.
No, that was a
Thank
good
you.
question, David. Appreciate it. All right, Paul, and
Thank you.
we'll see you later. Thanks
All
for
right. Thank
coming over.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so moving right along. So channeling Susan Chapnick, and I'm thinking that David Morgan is going to have to set up this one also. So David Morgan, are you prepared, or is someone here who is prepared to let us know about a vote to release 34 Dudley Street escrow funds? If not, you can bring us up to date, please.
I know that Eric Gerard from VHB said that he was going to join.
I see Eric, yeah.
I also.
Yeah, I can give a quick intro. Sorry, I'm in my car, so I can't pull up anything. But yeah, essentially, PSI Atlantic with the self-storage facility. Prior to construction, there was the existing notice of intent on the previous property owner. And then for PSI to move forward with their project, that order of condition needed to be closed out. And part of that required a stormwater system to support their garage addition under the previous owner that was never installed. So they didn't want to install that knowing that they were just going to rip it all out. So the agreement back then was to put some money in escrow in case if the PSI deal fell apart and then everyone walked away, that there would still be money in there to install the system for the former car shop that was out there. Since that everything worked out, PSI built their project, stormwater system, new stormwater system, everything's installed. everything's been up and running for a while. The store's open. PSI, ideally, kind of piggybacking on that previous discussion, would love to go for PCOC, understanding though that there is the 3-year for the vegetation. So we are requesting for at least the escrow to be released, and then we'll come back at a later date for the full certificate once the 3-year period's up.
And that we've got the as-builts that certify that the stormwater system was installed to spec, and I believe, I don't know, maybe Eric, you can correct me on this if I get it wrong, but I believe we had conditioned that there was a witness there from engineering to see that it was installed properly. So I believe all of those are satisfied.
I was personally out there when those chambers were going in. So we were out there with the contractor on the days that infiltration system was being installed.
I guess our recommendation from staff would be that we release the escrow and wait on the COC till the fully completed project, i.e. monitoring and so forth, is completed.
Sure. Any questions from conservation members? I have a question if no one else does.
I just wanted to request putting up the as-built just to refresh my memory. Thank you.
David, can you put that up? I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, it'll take a second for this to open. PDFs are.
So if somebody else had a question, go for it.
Yeah.
So,
oh, sorry.
Oh, Dave. No, go ahead. I'll.
No, please.
All right. So reading through the order of conditions for 910340, in this section it says an agreement. I think it's on page 2, but I don't have the number. But it's page 2. And so on page 2E, it says that the agreement, and this is the agreement about the stormwater system, it says that all the conditions are in 91300309. I didn't have an opportunity to read those conditions, and what kind of struck my interest is this where it says that you have to meet one of the 2 requirements. And so it says the conservation agent must inspect the stormwater system, or the conservation agent inspection of the installed stormwater system. And there's a section in there that talks about management, and we want to make sure that it's been installed and it's been maintained. And so my question is, what does the order of conditions in 910309 say about operation and maintenance? Because it's been up and running under my reading of this for a couple of years. Has there been any maintenance done on it? Are there any I guess notes or evaluations of how it's been performing? And I don't want to guess, but sometimes that ends up the first couple of years, that's 4 times a year. And then after that, it's reduced down to something that's more reasonable when you understand the amount of sediment that's getting into these chambers. So I see David kind of looking, but was there any requirements on getting or having the commission see some of these evaluations on the stormwater system?
Chuck, did I give you a number to reference in the other?
The order of conditions?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the one that we, I guess, eliminated was 0309. And this one here that's still in effect is 0340.
So this is 0309 that I'm scrolling through here. The conditions are below. Pre-construction is not going to be it. Sensors. Stormwater. Just to be
It
maintained.
refers you
by
to the
O&M.
operation and maintenance plan submitted with a notice of intent, so is that available?
This is a different system, so I don't think that it's germane to what's on site now.
Yeah, I have the O&M plan for the current basin open now. I can read that.
Yeah,
Sure.
that'd be good.
So inspection and cleaning, subsurface infiltration system will be inspected at least once a year. You know, and how to do it. And if sediment is more than 6 inches deep, must be suspended via flushing with clean water and removed using a Vactor. Let's see, manufacturer specifications and instructions for cleaning the sediment removal row are provided as an attachment. Emergency overflow pipes will be examined at least once a year and verified that no blockages occurred. And also the system will be observed after rainfalls to see if it is properly draining. So, I mean, that's the O&M, but I don't know if that's a condition of the ask, which is to issue the partial certificate to release the escrow fund.
No, it's just so it says in the order of conditions that we cannot release this unless these conditions have happened. And one of them mentioned maintenance, so I was kind of traveling down that maintenance road, just seeing if we got some sort of report or how long has it been open. And if it's been a year yet, then we should have got at least someone to review the stormwater system. So I could.
So I'm looking at the escrow agreement and I don't see any reference to
I didn't read the agreement, so it must be in the order of conditions.
to maintenance.
Chuck, you're saying that the order of conditions for this project has a condition in it that says that either I must inspect it or the maintenance conditions must be met in order to
That's what I thought I read. I'm looking for it now.
Eric, while we're waiting, do you have any information about how this has been maintained?
On my end, I can check with PSI on there. I know they take a lot of pride in how they run their facilities. I can confirm with them if what kind of records they do have. And I believe I don't think they fully opened. It wasn't until this summer, I believe, when they opened. So it hasn't been a full year yet as well. So I can confirm on those dates if needed and make sure that they get their necessary paperwork if that's being requested.
Sure, David. So David Kaplan, it's in that same section E on page 2. It's just a little bit above. The applicant shall well and faithfully do and perform the installation and maintenance of the proposed infiltration system according to the terms and order of conditions of 0309. And then it gets into, and then we can release this if one of these two conditions have happened. So the inspection and whatnot. I don't think it's splitting hairs, but if this has been in operation and it does ask that it's inspected once a year, that might be something to mention because that should be an ongoing practice at this point, and this is a good way to bring it up.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we're looking at two different documents. I'm seeing one that's just escrow agreement on the Google Drive. It's one page with 4 numbers. And
yeah, no, I got the order of conditions is up there too. I think it was, yeah, it was up there because that's where I got it.
Okay, so you're looking at the order itself, the order of conditions. Okay,
Yeah.
because I have this separate document says, the conditions that we release the sum of money are either one, the stormwater management system is permitted under the old order of conditions, that's the 309, is installed, and a certificate of compliance is issued that said stormwater system was installed in conformity with the order. Or two, the stormwater infiltration system is installed as permitted under the new order, 340, and a certificate of compliance is issued that said stormwater system was installed in conformity with the order.
So the second one is the one that they can't do because we don't have the notes on whether it was inspected and whether it passed inspection. But what was the first one again? Do you mind reading the first one? Because that seemed like it may.
First one's the old order.
Yeah, so the first one, it's the same language. One references the old order, so in case they didn't get their
So
project.
if the old order asked for maintenance, so it needs to be installed and maintained, and that makes sense to me.
It says installed as permitted under the order. So
Right,
It doesn't say
there's no
maintained. Yeah, it
there's
just
no
says
mention.
installed.
There's no mention of maintenance.
Well, that's where you have to go to the order, and that's, I started out by asking, look, we didn't get a chance to read through 0309.
Well, that's moot, right? Because we're looking at number 2. It's installed under 340.
340 is asked for maintenance.
Okay, I got you. So you're looking at the entirety of the order that references the O&M. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think it would be, if we looked at 0309, it probably has the same language. That's typically what we do. So I think that even though we, gave a certificate of compliance or canceled that order of conditions, it is one of the two things. So
Right.
anyways,
So,
I
okay,
just
so
bring
we
this
could-
point up. Yeah.
I think it's fine to ask for a report on an inspection report, the most recent one. I think it's okay then. But as the commission, we don't issue partial certificates, right? So we can't release the escrow until this project gets a certificate of compliance. Is that what I'm understanding?
I didn't read it that way. I feel like the request to issue the release the escrow only is held up by an inspection report.
Okay.
That's where I came from.
I think you guys, again, are tripping up on the fact that the escrow agreement says something in addition to what the order says, so it's layered, in my understanding. I think what Dave's pointing to is the escrow agreement saying that an order of, certificate of compliance is necessary, is binding in one document, and then Chuck's pointing out that the conditions in the order say review and approval by the agent and/or certificate of compliance is issued, right? So both are binding, and so the stricter of the two is the one that we have to follow. And I think then that we're not in a position to release the escrow until the certificate of compliance is accomplished.
I don't know. Where's Nathaniel when you need him?
Really? What's he doing on
You
vacation?
picked the wrong meeting to miss.
Really?
You have to pretend to be lawyers here.
Really? So there is a form. I don't know if it's on the drive. 8B, certificate of compliance for 0309 that we had that talked about this in a slightly different way. Said the applicants shall place a payment in escrow or post a bond in the amount of $7,705 to the Arlington Conservation Commission, for the installation and maintenance of the proposed infiltration system according to the terms of 309. The escrow or bond shall be released upon inspection of the said installed stormwater infiltration system by the conservation agent or upon the conservation agent's inspection of the installed stormwater system under 340. It says only one of these conditions needs to be met. So we're under 3.0 now.
That's
Um,
exactly what I read. Probably
okay.
not so clear, and that's why you reread it. But
Okay.
above that paragraph is where I pulled out maintenance. So if you just scan up, you'll see the maintenance. What you're reading is
Mhm.
340. 340 asks for an inspection. So in
Right.
order to comply with 340, you need an inspection.
Right.
I'm okay with giving this bond back. I have an engineer telling me it was installed properly. He was out there. Everything's good. This legal mumbo jumbo, I think we met it. And David, I'm wondering if I should sometimes put a gag order on him for some of these meetings, but I'm not sure. David, what would happen if we just said get an inspection report and we're good to move forward? It's $7,000 or something in that neighborhood, a little more, I guess, 7,700. Oh, is the DEP and stormwater police coming after us?
Ask Nathaniel.
So Chuck,
Well, I just
I'm
want to
in
give some
agreement.
direction here, like
Chuck,
that.
I'm in agreement with you, and I'll tell you my rationale. My rationale is when we put out orders of conditions with conditions, we never say you only get a COC if you've given us all your maintenance reports on your stormwater system for 2 years. We say we have a stamp plan that says the stormwater system went in as, the as-built is right?
Yeah,
We
it
don't
doesn't,
wait for
does,
them to do the maintenance. Now, if they don't do the maintenance, it's an enforcement order if we find out about it. Something happens and it floods, that's an enforcement order. But we don't generally hold a project for like a COC for maintenance of a stormwater system.
yeah, and this is a order of conditions and a notice of intent of firsts. And our first was to get this bond for an infiltration system that wasn't installed in an old order of conditions.
Right,
So we had to kind of like do backflips to get there. And
right.
now we're at this spot. I just think it seems reasonable at this point.
I agree.
If it's running correctly, we have an engineer that says he's been there. He sent a piece of paper. I checked out an as-built plan that was stamped recently in 2006. I didn't see the date better than that. But my last requirement would have been, to ask about inspection reports because that was part of that should have started when this system was in line. And we want to at least get them on top of that. So it sounds
So
like
can we at least just
Susan and
get a
I,
report and then I'm fine with releasing the funds? Is that what you're saying? Get an inspection report?
that's what I'm saying. I want
Yeah,
to hear
and then
I want
release
to
the
hear from
funds.
David White and David
Yeah.
Kaplan though.
Okay.
I think David's reading it. I can see him.
It's not much money really, but I think we should be cautious about what we do.
What's the downside? Do you think we could install that for 7,000 in the current conditions?
Probably cost you double that at least.
Yeah, I don't
You
think,
wanted
I
to
think,
install.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, what is the downside? The downside to me at this situation and this, where we are here today is mute, but I understand that I don't look at this legal stuff. I pretty much go by, what seems reasonable.
Well, the order of conditions is a legal document. The escrow agreement, also a legal document, both signed. I think, David said that we default to the conditions maybe of the more stringent. But again, I think the spirit has been met because it's been installed, it's been
Installed,
inspected,
yes.
and it in terms of, section or, bullet E, I think we can, in good faith, release that money with an inspection report. So I'm okay with that. I don't think we're going to put ourselves in jeopardy if we do it that way.
Makes sense.
All
I
right.
agree.
I agree. Okay, Eric. sorry this didn't come up in our meeting, but if you go back to the applicant and get that inspection report, we'll entertain this at the next meeting, and Nathaniel will be here. So that'll add another level of interest.
Another level of legality.
He'll negate everything we just said.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, sounds good. I appreciate your time, and I'll relay the info, and we'll circle back with you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you, Eric.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. David, let's see. So let's see, here we are. Okay, now we're on to our next item on the agenda, and it's the Water Bodies Working Group, the 2025 annual report review, and the budget vote. So this is going to be led by David White. Does David have permission to share his screen?
Okay, thank you. Represent the Water Bodies Working Group, which is myself, David Morgan, Brad Barber, Michelle DeRocher, Ellen Reed, Carolyn White, David Kaplan, and Kylie Foley. And we put together a annual report, which I've posted on the drive for everybody to read. I'll sort of summarize a few high points in the report before we get to the budget. We have 3 major water bodies that we sort of manage and monitor in various ways. First one is Spy Pond, 103-acre Kettle Pond, East Arlington. It has several problems. The basic issues are invasive aquatic plants, harmful algae blooms, extensive nutrients, lack of native plants. There are protected species along the shore, which makes things more difficult. And we have shoreline problems with invasive plants. So those are the issues with Spy Pond. And we have a program in place to sort of monitor and treat these issues as we find them. So in May, Water and Wetland, SWCA Environmental, treated Spy Pond for curly pondweed. In September, treated for Phragmites along the shore. Also note the fishing lines are an issue there, but the Friends of Spy Pond basically are in the process of cleaning things up as they find them. So that's under management, let's put it that way. And for next year, next fiscal year, basically the treatment plan with reactive treatments of invasives. Basically, they are curly leaf pondweed and brittle naiad in April, May, and July. Continue to monitor for fishing line issues. Plan to restore native plants, aquatic plants to Spy Pond, which is difficult. And work with the Friends of Spy Pond Park. Augment volunteer efforts. Remove invasive growths along the shore. Encourage native vegetation. That's the basic brief story for Spy Pond. For reservoir, the big problem there has been basically water chestnut plants, which have covered the surface for many years. We've been harvesting them now, mechanical harvesters and by hand harvester, like for canoes, for about 4 or 5 years now. And we're seeing actually a decline in water chestnuts as we remove the seed bank. Hopefully going forward, we'll see even fewer water chestnuts, and that will reduce the efforts and the cost of that. But as we remove water chestnuts, we may have problems with nutrients and other invasive plants. So we're planning to basically monitor the pond as well, reservoir as well, for nutrients, other aquatic measures, and invasive plants. And I believe the mechanical harvest is going to start in June, is that David? Rick David? Is that what week of June is that?
The last week of June, the first 2 weeks of August are scheduled.
So when you say last week of June, does that mean over July or just the last full week of June?
Last full week of June, because we need them to finish before the fiscal year wraps up.
Okay, great, thank you. Realize that. We're also investigating possibilities of harvesting from the Lexington side as well, but that's under investigation, so more on that will come. Other pond that we manage is Hills Pond. 2.5 acre shallow pond, basically fed by surface water, Bonnie Rocks Park. Water Wetland has been contracted to manage Hills Pond, and they treat invasive plants, test and treat for algae, and test for nutrients. Also plan to try to reduce phosphorus, which is a major problem in the pond as well. Did have a problem with algae in September, but that was quickly resolved with the colder weather. Recommend to continue our current plans, which is basically aeration, monitoring, and investigation. That's basically what we're thinking in terms of active management. Any questions about those 3 water bodies? Susan?
I just had a comment. The bullet you have in Spy Pond is an action item for fishing line waste management. Can you put that bullet in Hills Pond too? I mean, Hills Pond, it's been a big issue. And I would like, if we're putting it in Spy Pond and we're including it as an issue, I think it should go in Hills Pond as
Asking
well.
for the report, okay.
Yeah. And then I had a question. Did you get to McLennan yet? No. We just got.
Planning we're not doing anything much ourselves. Basically, at this
Right.
point, it's
DPW.
DPW's hands, and maybe
Okay.
David can say a little more about that, but
Okay.
there's no
Did the
plans.
no mow signs go up?
Are
David?
they in the report? This is about the report and the
Yeah,
budget.
they're in the report. The report is vague. That's why
Yeah, I'm just
asking.
so
Those
you're
are
asking
planned.
for
Those
in
are
the
planned.
report. Yeah.
It's in the report. They're saying that they're
Gonna go up.
The word.
They're going to go up.
They've been going to go up for 4 years.
Well, they're procured, Jackie got them manufactured, and they got to Mike Rademacher's office, so.
Okay, so that's
I
a
don't
plus.
believe they went in before the ground froze,
Yeah.
but they should.
So it should only be
spring
another
last
couple of years now. So now it's with
Okay.
DPW.
Well, in his
so we should
office,
be,
so it reminds them.
Okay.
you know, this is what happens when you rely on, the budget's not our own and the labor's not our own, and
Yep.
it takes a while. This is a while. This is really a while. I did have some questions too. So I'm gonna also piggyback on what Susan was saying. I do think that the report needs to mention that the Conservation Commission has been hearing a lot about this fishing line issues. This is something the commission has been discussing in all earnest, and we certainly have an opinion here. And the Water Body Working Group should support the Conservation Commission through that and at least mention it in your report. So Hills Pond, it was talked about some monitoring at Spy Pond. I'm not sure if it goes on anywhere else, but certainly somehow that should be in the report that the observation of what we saw with wildlife entanglement and turtles, and that the commission is trying to work. I don't know how you're gonna, that's the general theme. We're trying to work through this. We're trying to get some resolution on that. And I think it would be good to be in our report. So we can point to the report and say, this has been on our report. You can't say you don't know about it. We've been trying to implement this for years or something like that, if it gets to that far. Same thing as the open space plan.
Okay, I can probably expand that, yeah.
Okay.
Thank
That's
you.
my only comment about what you've talked about so far. But I also want to, well, I'll wait till the end. Go ahead, David. We're on to the reservoir.
Basically the reservoir, the water chestnuts already. And we talked about harvesting 3 weeks this summer, mechanical harvesting. The last full week of June, 2 weeks in August, plus volunteer harvesting organized by Mystic River Water Association, from canoes. We're also looking at possible harvesting from the Lexington side of the reservoir. So basically, the basic news is that the water chestnut volume seems to be declining. And with time, that should come down and the effort should be less, which means less money as well. So it's showing
That's
signs of
great
improvement.
news because it's been years since that's happened. And I think it's because you have been, the Water Bodies Group has been very focused on doing this right, the last few years at the right time of year. So thank you.
Yeah,
Because
I
we're
think we're trying
seeing,
to
yeah,
the
we're
right time, right
seeing,
place.
yeah, we're seeing the benefit of that.
Yeah. I just also want to mention that aquatic control technology in the early 2000s managed to bring it down to a level where it only take like a few days of harvesting. So we're not quite there yet, but there's a precedence for much improvement.
Great.
So those are the basic highlights of the report. Are there any questions, any other water bodies or issues?
I had one question, just the Mystic River section, you may want to just delete some of that stuff.
I think we took
Because
some
it's
stuff out.
DPW, yeah. So you still have something like, since 2018, DPW has installed 97 infiltration trenches. I think that's from last year, but I'm not sure. And it's shown in the graphic, and the graphic's not there. So what I had done every year is ask Bill Copperthorne to update that for us. But if you don't want to, because it's DPW, you could just, I don't know how you feel about that. You may not have time.
I may not have time. It has to be I could ask Bill what he has anything to add to that.
Yeah, or David can. David has his ear, I think.
David, you can ask Phil, right?
So last year, I just took this section and I sent it to Bill in an email and said, hey, can you update this for me? He also updated the graphic, but he may not have time to do it by Monday. Because I understand Monday is when you're presenting it. Is that right, David?
Presenting to the Concom, rather to the FinCom.
FinCom on Monday. Yeah. So at least
Monday.
get a number from him. If the number should have gone above 97. If you look at the third paragraph, that's what I usually ask him to update. And if he doesn't, maybe just take it out because you do say DPW takes the lead.
Yeah, we see
And
that
just
there,
leave
yeah,
it.
basically.
Yeah.
It's good to know what's going on, but
It is good to know
information.
because I don't know if it's captured anywhere else. I don't know that DPW does their own report and has this information in it. Do you know that, David
I
Morgan?
don't think so.
I don't think so. If they don't, we should leave it
We
here
should
and make it right.
report it. Yeah, we should report it. Yeah.
They do reporting to EPA for their MS for the tanks.
MS4s, but it's not, yeah, it's not as
It's
detailed.
not like this.
Yeah. Okay. So if you can get that updated, that would be awesome. But thank you. This looks really good.
We do a lot of things, and a lot of people helped with this, so it's a joint effort.
I like the pictures too.
Yeah, Brad Barber provided the picture of the ice
That's great.
on the pond.
Great. Yeah.
The group effort. So the next item is the budget, which maybe David Morgan can share with us.
All right, here's the spreadsheet. I just dashed off an email to Bill asking for that number. So, FY26 budget, we had allocated around $100,000 to be expended. We came in well under that. It was about 30,000 under that, so only spent around 2/3 of what we expected. That leaves us with 69,553 currently in the bank. The column W here explains what happens between now and the end of the fiscal year.
This end of this fiscal year, yes.
So between here and July 1, let's say, we have money encumbered for the spring treatment of Spy Pond, which we'll do with SWCA and Water and Wetland, as we've done in past years. We have 15,000 set aside for the res that will cover
1 week.
the week of harvesting in June. We have 5,000 set aside for Hills Pond. I think that will be more than ample. And this is just a carryover from the other. There are no other encumbrances. This $20 thing was a soil test that we did at one point. So, end of the fiscal year, everything that we have
So that brings us up to like 62,000 to start the.
Exactly. So you see that carried over here, carried forward in column X, 62.7. The story with our request, I think you know, we were asked to reduce our request from
By 10%.
95,000, which we had negotiated with FinCom to begin with, back down to the 85,000 level, and then to reduce that number by 10%, which is what all boards and committees are being asked this year, given the override and so forth. Budgeted Spy Pond at 45. Reservoir
It's in
Flow
26.
came back 41,250, setting aside 10 for Hills, 1,000 for McLennan. This is really just contingencies, and then the other category, $2,500, which puts us right back on par with typical expenditure of recent years, at least our budgeted expenditure, around $100,000, and leaves us with a $40,000 roughly balance at the end of FY27. And we've been around and around this with the Water Bodies Working Group, done our due diligence on cost estimates and considering the scope of work and so on and so forth. I think this budget's in very good shape, and I'm confident that FinCom will feel good about it because we've gotten our ending balance, which is sort of our buffer, so to speak, to be down at a level that they find acceptable. You'll remember past years, back in FY22, for example, we had a 6-figure buffer. They asked us to draw that down, which we did over a period of years. They were happy when we got it down to like 60,000, but recent years we've gone well below that, and I think that they will be very satisfied that we're not carrying too much more than we need, but it does still allow us wiggle room if, you know, we want to do
You get some room for yes.
at McLennan, or if Spy Pond has an unexpected issue, what have you, there's $40K in the bank to address that.
We also need it because of the difference between fiscal year and the years of our contracts, right? Because
Exactly. Yeah,
otherwise
I
we
mean,
won't be able to cover the treatments in the spring of fiscal year 28 if we actually use all the other money.
well, we'd get a new allocation in that July, so
No, but we can't do it. So that's caused us problems before. That's why we need the carryover, because we need to do treatments sometimes in May or June, right?
I would frame that more as like contingency funds than it is budgeting for the spring treatments, because we have like this column basically every year where we have it encumbered for the spring treatment.
Okay.
For the
Okay.
spring and
I
the
see what you're
summer.
saying. Okay.
Yeah, we do
So,
carry it forward.
this is great. I just have two comments. I like the little comments on the side because I think that's helpful to FinCom to kind of remind them, what are we spending all this money on? I think you need one for the 5,000 for Hills Pond. Just say it's monthly monitoring or whatever you want to say, and phosphorus testing or whatever you want to, like a few words in there,
Oh, yeah, say what it actually is.
what it is. And then, so in that row, that's row 21.
Monitoring and treatment.
Yeah, so there should be something in there, just very brief, like you did the other ones. Monthly monitoring and phosphorus testing or whatever you do. Water quality testing, monthly monitoring.
And treat,
Nutrient,
and
right, mitigation, great.
algae.
Does that
Algae.
restrict it to only those items if you wanted to use it for something else? I guess monitoring
No.
is,
I think, yeah. No.
Honestly, I'd put it
That's pretty general.
there because it counts for both. That's the scope of work in total. And this line just reflects what we're doing.
Right,
Spring,
yeah, it goes
so-
right. It doesn't go in the encumbered. And then the only other thing I would say, I was just looking at an email from, was it Carol?
Carolyn White.
Carol White, yeah. So she's confused. I'm just pointing this out to you, David, and I don't want to take up the commission's time with this, but if you could connect with her maybe tomorrow morning. She sent back questions, and it looks like she doesn't understand the encumbered funds. Her questions show me that she doesn't get it. So maybe if you could just explain it to her, because she's also on the FinCom, so I want to make sure that you explain it to her before Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, David, did you get that email?
is that
Yeah, I got
Carol
the
White?
email.
Yeah,
I actually
he
went through that
replied.
with her at the
Yeah.
meeting last week, so she's still
Okay.
confused. We need to
Yeah,
touch base
so
with
maybe
her.
you need to do a little one-on-one with her, David.
Yeah.
Because it looks like she just doesn't understand what encumbered means and what it's used for.
David Morgan, can we sort of schedule time to meet with her?
Possibly. I'm not sure how much time I have.
Let me know. Otherwise, I can just try to meet with her, but I think she has some confusions about things.
Yeah, I think maybe you could
she's
even
a
do it
FinCom person
Monday
too, so-
if you could spend 15 minutes with her, do a Zoom call on it and just answer her questions. Because I
Yeah.
would hate for her to then bring them up again
Yeah,
when
I'm
you're
trying to
meeting with
trying
FinCom,
to- yeah.
because that's going to be confusing to everybody.
Yeah, she's on my list of people to try to get in touch, coordinate with.
Okay.
Definitely avoid confusion there.
Okay.
All right.
She goes off her own direction sometimes, so it's hard to.
It's okay. If she has questions, maybe other people will, so we might as
Yeah.
well head them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this looks good. Any other
Looks good.
questions? Any other columns to review?
I think this is basically it for the budget.
Any questions from other commissioners? Seeing none, I think that we're looking for, so do we vote on the annual report?
I think
usually
I
do.
think you just accept the annual report and
So
the
the
budget.
Vote on the
annual
budget.
report, we did ask you to do some additions. So let's just say as amended, some in the, whoever is
Yes.
going to make the motion.
Motion to approve as amended.
No second?
Second,
Second, Susan Chapnick, David White,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
Susan Chapnick,
yes.
and Chuck Troney says yes. Motion to approve the Water Bodies Working Group budget for
moved.
FY 26, right?
FY 26, yes.
Chicks?
So moved.
Okay. That's right.
That was David Kaplan.
Oh, yeah, David Kaplan, now a second.
Second,
Susan Chapnick, second. That's David White,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
Susan Chapnick,
yes.
and Chuck Troney says yes. Do we have the FY correct on that? David Morgan, FY 26 is coming up.
27.
27.
Yeah, I think
27,
make
yes.
a correction on FY 27. That's the budget you're working on. So it's
FY
duly
27,
noted.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, next on the agenda is a CPA report, but Brian McBride's not here. And then we have the tree committee update with Sarah Alfaro Franco.
All right, so the tree committee had a meeting on the 11th, February 11th. Basically, the main topic was membership status, and that is because the town council determined that only 4 members currently have valid appointments. The town council said he will not reappoint anyone until a warrant article formally establishing the tree committee in the town bylaws is presented and approved by town meeting. The issue is that it presents a quorum challenge because 3 of the 4 valid members are needed in order for the tree committee to have meetings. So that was the main topic. It doesn't affect Concom, but you should know, you should be aware of this. So the committee worked on a warrant article to be presented at town meeting. Tim, the tree warden, had technical issues, unfortunately, and was not able to join the Zoom meeting. That's about it. Jackie, anything else I may have missed from the meeting?
No, I was only there at the end of the meeting, so
No.
I appreciate you filling me in.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm one of the 4
You're
remaining
one of the 4.
members.
Yes, I see it. So that's it.
All right, thank you. And then Nathaniel Stevens is not here tonight, and I don't know, David, did you end up talking to the Recreation Department between our last couple of meetings? I think David is taking a break. So I'll move on to Administrator's Report, which is also David. So I guess I don't want to skip over the Recreation Department. So I guess what ended up happening is from Natasha, we did get a list of items that they were going to fulfill. Seemed to me that a lot of those items is what we asked for in the first place. And me and Susan wanted to create a reply to Jim Feeney and Natasha in the Recreation Department, because I think one thing that was missed in my mind, and Susan could talk to what she wanted to add, was the fact that in my opinion, it would be great if we got in there and did a couple of cleanups prior to the leaves popping out, and so early spring, and maybe another one. So I know that David Morgan in our meeting has committed to putting one of those together. I'm just not sure if all of this talk and hope and action is going to get the Recreation Department to allow us to do that. So that's one of the things I wanted to add to the letter. And then I wanted to go with Susan right now, and then maybe I'll go to David, since you should hear Susan first if she wanted to talk about what she wants to add in.
So I just want to make sure that the communication from Natasha was in on the drive, was it?
It should have been. We asked at the prep meeting that was installed.
Did you see it, David Kaplan and David White?
Well, that should
No?
go up now.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be posted too to the water bodies fishing, I don't know, correspondence page. So
It should be correspondence.
yeah,
So I think the other members of the commission are a little at a disadvantage not having seen it.
Well, according to my notes, it's like the second time we talked about it, but I'm not saying they shouldn't have seen it, but I don't want to wait another meeting to try to get this letter out. So
Oh, no,
I
we
just
should
want
get
to
the
get you
letter
to
out.
talk about what you wanted in the letter.
Sure. I don't think they saw it. We didn't have it before the last meeting. So it came between these two meetings.
Yeah, so my notes from last meeting was Jim Feeney provided a timeline outlining the upcoming actions regarding the Hills Pond work. And so that was from my last meeting.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I was disappointed that the timeline that she represented did not include things such as birds that were killed and maimed. I mean, it was a convenient timeline showing things that Park and Rec did and not fully representing, in my opinion, the harms to the wildlife and the wildlife habitat. So I was a little dismayed by that. That said, I also felt, I agree with Chuck that there should be a cleanup, but I also felt that there wasn't enough detail around monitoring and maintenance. Monitoring of this waste and maintenance of the receptacles that they're going to be putting back in. And I felt that was not addressed fully. Okay. David White wants to, yeah,
Before
go
we
ahead.
get too far down this path, I had a meeting with Natasha and Courtney, her second in command, at the end of last week. I think we should probably circle up Chuck, Susan, maybe David and me, and have a conversation that updates everybody on the progress that they've made and bring it back to the commission for the next meeting.
That's fine with me. If maybe we should comment on this one and wait till we hear what that is. Is that what you're saying, David? Or should we send a letter from the commission based on their communication?
I would say pause on a response, wait for further updates, and we can talk again in March.
So why is it so top secret that we can't just hear about your meeting tonight?
It's not top secret. It's 9:30.
Yeah, it's 9:30 and we have 2 hearings to get to. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it does put off our letter. I feel like it's somewhat important to understand why we're being put off for 2 weeks. So
I just
David
wonder what's
White,
happening. That's my question. What's going on?
yeah. I mean, these guys didn't. So David, just give us an executive summary.
They're on board with doing a cleanup. They would like to think about doing a broader cleanup at Hills Pond, focused, of course, on the fishing line issue, but also just like working with the Friends group on their annual cleanup efforts that typically take place. And they've made more progress on the timing and installation and so forth of the facilities, let's call them, like the disposal
The receptacles.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's getting late. Yeah.
How about other water bodies or other actions besides receptacles?
They've made mention, I think they also mentioned in the letter that they're doing education, and I got some more
Signage.
specifics about that. Signage is included, like a learn to fish class that would instruct kids on
Education is good, I think.
how to dispose of these things properly and how not to pollute the water body with their fishing tackle, etc.
All right. We want to keep this short though. But David, so it sounds like for me, other than one of what Susan said, is there's no time frame. There's no, like they're going to do a cleanup, but they're going to incorporate it into the Friends cleanup. When was that? So I think the best time is in the spring. I also want to make sure that if we can be involved, we, the commission, I think we could get, a few people out there, or a few more people out there if we included the commission. So that would be great. So I guess if you're going to have another meeting, if you could try to figure out a date, who's in charge, I think that's great. I'm glad that they incorporated it. So it sounds like it's just one though.
The one cleanup, and I wasn't clear earlier, but I did say like we should partner on this, and they were
All right.
like, great, let's get the land stewards crew, like, you know, anybody who's interested and looped in now because of the fishing line conversation, etc. They're for it. And they said like April or May would be great because obviously that's before, or not obviously, it's likely before leaf out, and we could see stuff and be able to get more trash picked up around the pond, etc. So it's loose, but we are sort of leading the charge on the scheduling, and I think all we got to do is run it by them and say, here's a date we propose, we talk to the friends group, blah, blah, blah.
All right. So when should we get together? Let's do it. So David, sorry, I still see your hand up. But you can tell us when you're available. Is everyone available like next week so we can keep momentum going? Let's say Tuesday between 9 and 2. And David, you can take over from here, David White, and you can tell us if you're available during that time.
I'm probably available then. I was going to raise the issue, basically, new animal control officer might be looped into this.
I don't know what Susan
I
said,
think
but
I
it
think that
sounded
would be
good.
great. I'd love to meet the new animal control officer as a wildlife
Has
rehabilitator
rehab
also.
experience, I believe.
She has a lot of, yeah. So at least we have a resource if we do see entangled wildlife, which we
Yes.
didn't have before, other than volunteers like Laura Kiesel. And
All right, so I'm not
for the
sure if
team.
that's going to make it tougher to get this meeting
Yeah.
scheduled,
right.
but we'll leave that up to David. So I'm available between 9 and 2 on Tuesday. So David, Morgan, do you have any time
I've got
on
11.
Tuesday?
Does that work for
So-
folks?
Does everybody think 11 works fine?
Tuesdays don't work for me, but meet without me. I'm fine.
What days work for you, Susan?
Mondays, Wednesdays.
I'm good on Monday too, same
Friday.
time frame. David, how about you? David and David.
I know Monday's hard for David.
Oh, 11.
My Monday's cooked.
Wednesday,
I could do Wednesday.
9 to 2.
I could do anytime Wednesday.
We could do Wednesday.
Did I get the right page?
11.
Sounds good.
I'll send the hold.
Moving on.
Stick around.
So David Morgan, I don't think you have an administrator's report, right? That was probably it.
Works for me.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna have our first hearing, 9:38. So this is a notice of intent for 910374, notice of intent for Winchester Country Club at 468 Mystic Street. It's been continued from our last hearing. The public will be held by a Conservation Commission to consider a notice of intent to perform golf club course, fairway, and green reconfiguration and improvement. Areas proposed to be altered include the buffer zone adjacent upland resource area, the riverfront associated with Herbert Myers Brook. And we discussed the updated plans and application since our January 21st site visit. And I think that we received a few things tonight, specifically with this one, we received the planting plan for the greens. And so there was a comment about running these both at the same time from Nathaniel Stevens at the last meeting. Do people want to do that again? You think you would find it helpful, Susan, David, or David? You want to run these at the same time? I can open both of them up.
Yeah, I would like to run them at the same time because otherwise we're going to be
Okay.
repetitive, I think.
So we're also going to open up 91-376, which is a notice of intent to conduct improvements to the facilities with the buffer zone, adjacent resource upland area, the riverfront area associated with Herbert Myers Brook, and within the buffer zone, The page. And the or of a bordering vegetated wetland. And so for this one, we received a planting plan for the putting green and an invasive management plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, and I think she's here. Yeah,
here.
I see her. So Sarah, introduce yourself for the record and your team, and take us down the path of approval.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. So we have two projects simultaneously open, as the chair mentioned. I think probably the best thing to do, sorry, for the record, Sarah Stearns with Beals and Thomas, Jim Simmons and Blaine Doherty are here representing the club, and my colleague Jackie Boyer, who's sharing her screen now, is also with me. So I thought if it pleases the commission to start with the planting plan for 910374, since that's a little bit more straightforward. What is on the screen now, if everybody can see that, is the plan that was submitted under that NOI number. We do have in the planting table in the upper right, Jackie, if you want to just scroll that way, we did annotate these plans with the DEP file numbers just to try to keep things somewhat organized for like the long term. So there's some breadcrumb trail for all of us or whomever comes in after us to piece this together. So if you want to scroll over, Jackie, to the first T area, which was the area of focus in our last discussion, you'll see the small planting area that's outlined. It's about 400 square feet, I believe. And, you know, there's 3 shrubs and some grasses proposed, all native species as discussed. Not too much to talk about there. The quantities and sizing are in the planting schedule. And if you want to zoom out, Jackie, just to show the whole plan, this is the thing that we talked about is including the 910376 planting and maintenance area as well, but we're showing it on this plan sort of screened in the background, just to try to make it clear that the focus of this plan is the little area by the first tee. But again, just for continuity, added that in the background too.
Okay. Should we stick with this one, or you want to go through the other one? Any comments on this planting plan from any of the commissioners? This is for notice of intent 910374.
No comments. Looks good to me.
No
No,
comments.
looks good to me
Okay.
too.
All right, let's concentrate on the next one, 0376.
Great. Okay, thank you. So this looks familiar. Just for the record, since we're talking about a different project, Sarah Stearns and Jackie Boyer from Beals and Thomas with Jim Simmons and Blaine Doherty from Winchester Country Club tonight. This file number 910376 is related to clubhouse improvements, as well as a renovation of an existing building for a social pavilion and an update to the existing putting green. So our past conversations have been extremely productive in coming up with a mitigation plan for the riverfront area along Herbert Meyer Brook. It is broken into a couple different facets. What's shown in front of us now in the crosshatched pattern is the area within the riverfront area that would be a no maintenance zone, other than potentially, depending on how the discussion goes tonight, I guess, scouting and managing invasives. So it would be a hands-off area, other than, you know, keeping an eye out for invasives and monitoring that. There's another active, I guess is the right term, invasive management area just to the south of the existing swimming pool. It's sort of running off the page here, but that was pointed out on our site visit and talked about at our last meeting as, you know, an area that's been specifically targeted for Japanese knotweed. That is a proposed plan we put together specific for that area in our January 30th memo. Last meeting, we were asked to provide an invasive species management plan just sort of for a broader swath of species. And we didn't really talk specifics, so we just proposed some pretty basic tenets of invasive species management and included the list from the Lexington invasive or Lexington native species plan, which also had a list of prevalent species in this area. I'm sure we won't see all of them. I would hope not. But just to kind of cover all of our bases, clearly some methodologies are better for certain types of species, but we were getting very specific without really knowing what's out there at the moment. So we thought keeping it general would probably serve the purpose best for now. And then, as it is undertaken, can, provide reporting to the commission and kind of figure out on a case-by-case basis with specific species, what the protocol is and keep up with monitoring on that. And then the third component of this plan is the actual planting plan, which we did have some fun with. It's not a wetland replication area because this is an upland area, so it was kind of a different thing. And it was honestly kind of a fun thing to do because we were able to really come up with an interesting pollinator-friendly, native, primarily perennial planted area. If you remember the split rail fence that was like pretty tight up against the existing bank will be moved to the far side of this planted area. And then the other kind of side component, I guess, there was another plan that we submitted that was prepared by the club's landscape architect as part of their scope of work for the social pavilion, if you have that available, Jackie. Yeah. So this was already prepared by the club's landscape architect that's working under the umbrella of the architectural company that's overseeing the actual design of the structural improvements. So it was not done by Beals and Thomas, but it was done in conjunction with us by a company called Mahan Reichel. They are a landscape architecture firm. They also utilized the native species list provided by the town, and so what's proposed here is sort of symbiotic with what we had proposed in the larger planting scheme, predominantly perennials and some shrubs around there for visual interest, but also, making use of the space to add some native plantings around the renovated building. So those are kind of all of the pieces that were submitted since we spoke together at our last hearing. I'm happy to pause there and discuss as the commission sees fit.
Sure. Commissioners, any comments about this notice of intent that we're reviewing now? So I'm gonna go with David Kaplan.
Susan had her hand up first, if you don't mind, but
I don't care, David, go ahead.
okay. All right. So just in terms of the extent of the planting plan that you have, it looks like, that invasive species management zone by the pool and the no-touch zone.
Yeah.
It looks like the intent is to extend that further. Is there a way to fit all that on one plan, or is the intent there to cut that off right at the plan?
The intent is to include that area until it gets to the paved parking lot, essentially. This is what we could fit in the viewport, honestly, just to capture kind of the meat of the plan. I'll have to look back.
I think maybe you have a third or another plan that just maybe doesn't, has both planting plans grayed out and then just has the highlighted invasive and no touch zone extent like captured. So you can see that all in one area. So I think we just need to document like the full extent of these zones. Um, and so that was really my only comment. And my other comment, I guess, too, was, I think maybe I'm a little bit less concerned than other conservation commissioners about the use of herbicides for invasives management in resource areas. But I'm wondering if we could either remove the broadcast spray chemical control and just limit any herbicide use to a targeted application, like the cut and swipe stem injection, something that kind of limits the potential for overspray. And making sure it's parsimonious and targeted to the plant. The targeted vegetation.
I think that's fine. And again, just our proposal was something for discussion. So, if that's the way the commission feels, I don't think that that is a problem at all.
Yeah, that's personal opinion there. I think it's just a good way to keep things from, escaping into the environment unintentionally. I think those are my only two questions. The plant list looks good. Everything, as you said, is native. And we'll just defer to your landscape architect on how everything's laid out. Thank you.
And sure. And Susan Chapnick?
Thank you. This is great. It's great to see a very robust planting plan. So thank you for that. I think that we've worked together and produced something that not only is going to enhance the habitat value, which is what we're concerned about, but also if, planting pollinators, et cetera. I think the people who come to Winchester Country Club, or when those plants are in bloom, are going to really appreciate seeing the butterflies and bees and things flitting around. So I think that's going to be really nice. I do just want to raise for the commission, because sometimes my opinion is different from others, so we should have a discussion on what no maintenance means. And I know we talked a little bit about this at the last meeting. The no maintenance zone that's to the south, so it's the hatched area that's to the south of Herbert Meyer Brook, right now is not being maintained and not being mowed. Is that right? Is that correct? That's my recollection from
Most of
walking
it,
it.
most
Yeah.
of it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I would prefer no invasive control in there. Personally, I think, just it's hard to see in the winter, but it looks pretty vegetated with, there's lots of trees, there's shade. A lot of invasives usually like sun, at least the ones that we have here in New England, like the Japanese knotweed and the garlic mustard, like sun. So I almost would prefer it is a no maintenance zone, period, and not even maintained for invasives. Whereas I do understand the other side of the brook, we have seen invasive, especially that big stand of Japanese knotweed. And interestingly enough, the big stand of Japanese knotweed has not gone anywhere. It's really contained. And I think that might be because you cut it down. I'm not sure. I would ask your landscape person, but it's interesting to me that it hasn't expanded. It stayed in that sunny little area. It hasn't gone to the other side of the brook. So I guess I'm not as worried about invasives in the area that we're on the other side of the brook that we're calling no maintenance. So I just like to have a discussion about that. But I do agree with David about no broadcast spray. I really am concerned about overspray and, wafting of spray into resource areas in the brook, etc. So.
So we're going to move back to David Kaplan because I think he was going to comment on one of your comments. I'm not sure because just timing of your hand going up is why I'm thinking that.
You read my mind. Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from, Susan, and I think what the applicant's proposing, not to speak for them, maybe they can speak to it, but they're going to focus on monitoring that area, and maintenance of invasives will only happen if it's sort of deemed an issue. We haven't really talked about what those thresholds could be, but I think if um, I'm not sure we anticipate any invasives maintenance going on in those areas, for at least a couple of years until they identify a persistent problem that may need a management. So maybe Sarah can speak to that.
I mean, honestly, I think the club is open to whatever the commission's comfortable with. What we proposed is something that their in-house staff between Blaine Doherty as their golf course superintendent, they have an in-house horticulturist. Jim and Blaine are here tonight, hearing what we're talking about and how to proceed with that. So, I think the level of monitoring is really up to you to tell the club what you're looking for. So, I think they're fine with whatever, whatever the decision is. If it's an active monitoring during the growing season and logging what's being seen and treatment, that's fine. And if it's more of a take a step back approach and, when there is something that has started to get a little out of control, then step in and address it at that point. So, or something in between, I think is probably fine too. They're flexible.
Sure, I saw your hand go down, so I'm going to go to David White.
Okay, I agree. No broadcast herbicides. I think that's a good goal. I think though sometimes targeted herbicides are needed to control some invasives. We've approved that in the past with various plants on Arlington land. So I think leave that option open, but not excluded. That's my views on how to do this.
All right, David, thank you. So I'm going to have some comments. So I reviewed the operation and maintenance plan, and I think terminology in this plan was a little deceiving. I think you need to tighten it up. On the first page, we have invasive species management area. On the last page, we have within the planned management landscape area. So I'm hoping that what Blaine intends to do is to monitor all of this new area, the hashed area, the new area underneath the putting green, and the area by the tee for the establishment of an invasives. And then his first step would be, the penultimate page, number 5. He has the options of hand pulling, and from what I've heard, he hardly uses any kind of treatment. So that might be the first thing, to walk through those areas, make sure where he wants woody vegetation is growing and where he doesn't want it isn't growing, a lot of hand pulling and a lot of monitoring. And then when something starts to establish, then he has to come up with a plan. I also agree with broadcast sprayers. I think that we've had a lot of people come in and they've scared us. So maybe Winchester will do it right, but we haven't seen anyone that has convinced us that the broadcast sprayers will not go beyond the target. So I would like to see that we're talking about not only the no touch zone, but the area that's the I guess it's the below the putting green, and so both sides of the brook monitored for invasives. On the second page, moving on from that, it says in number one that you're going to do this for no less than 5 years. And I always say this is mitigation for the project. So I would assume that the Conservation Commission wants this done in perpetuity. And I don't, since landscaping is part and parcel with the golf course, this shouldn't be an issue. I think you're creating a beautiful spot here, and everyone's going to love it, and it should be maintained. So I don't think that's a big ask. And then this monitoring, it didn't come up with a date, and so it's annual monitoring. So I would suggest between June 15th and September 15th. If there's another date, that's fine with me, as long as we have a date established. And then you said qualified professional. And we do that here on the commission, and I just feel like I need to pull my hair out every time. So I've made a small list of who I would think would be a qualified professional. So we could replace that with mass licensed pesticide applicator, certified arborist, ISA certified, or a professional wetland scientist. So those were the qualified, and anyone can add things to that but as long as it's not a professional we are not listing tonight. So if it's on the list tonight, that's great. If it's not, then like a qualified professional, I'm sure it wouldn't be a engineer, but in some sense that is a qualified professional. So,
And Mr. Chair, if I could interject just for a clarification for 1 second, I appreciate all these comments. A lot of this was just sort of general for our discussion purposes tonight. So my thought was that our discussion tonight would help round out this proposed plan to meet a better specification that the commission's comfortable with, whether it's through conditions or a revised submission. Either is fine with us. Since the club has a horticulture specialist on staff, I would suggest perhaps adding that as a qualified professional. But other than that, I agree with your other recommendations.
Makes sense. Yeah. And the Japanese knotweed, I think that's going to be the one area that you treat differently because it has been established. So there would be a targeted approach with that area. And we are going to receive monitoring reports. So we'd like to see that stand disappearing over the next 5 years for sure. I think that ends all my comments, but I would ask David Kaplan, you've asked for plans, full extent of the plans. We have my comments here. I'm not sure, maybe the applicant wants to come back and present these to us, but sometimes it's okay to approve and move the project forward and have these updates come in prior to David Morgan issuing the order of conditions. So it's just a comment, and I made that comment to David Kaplan to see what he thought.
Yeah, the plan's an easy one. Does the commission feel comfortable, I guess, with the invasive species plan with the suggested updates?
Well, that would be up to David Morgan to make sure he made good notes. Or yeah.
Yeah.
And then he would have to make sure. Yeah.
Right. It seemed there was a decent amount of amending to that. But yeah, I think if with those changes, I'd be comfortable, starting to talk about conditions and consider issuing an order of conditions or voting on that tonight.
Yeah. And we could add all those to our conditions also. So I think what I'd like to do is put David on the spot a second time, and I will, ask him if he could. So I actually don't even see David up on screen. So, if he could follow through with that. So, Susan, I see your hands up. Do you have a comment on what I just proposed or something else?
Yeah, no, um, I don't know, I don't know if these would be conditions or it would be revised invasive plant management or both. Um, I I'm okay with considering closing and talking about conditions if we're going to get a revised invasive plant management plan. I don't want to just put special conditions in and then this plan is in violation of them, for example, with the broad spraying, because it gets confusing 3 years down the road. What did we do? These things are disparate. So just like, we like to get the plans right in terms of what are the areas, I'd also like to get the words right. Um, but I'm fine if we decide what the word should be and then we do it, we get it for the permit. That said, I still feel kind of strongly that no maintenance is no maintenance. And it could be monitored for invasives, and we could have some kind of threshold. And we could say when you start seeing, 20% invasives taking over this area, then management should be instituted or something like that. But I feel like sometimes we over control native environments, and I'm concerned about that. That's my opinion. So I'd like to see some language on thresholds. And the no maintenance zone monitored and only actions taken if a threshold is exceeded. We can decide on what that threshold is.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I'm curious about, what the applicant's appetite is for doing sort of an existing conditions assessment.
So, David, I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead. I'll just catch up in a second.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, if it's just more of there's monitoring and reporting and just communication with the commission about what's on the ground and where it is, and then we can have some sort of, continuing conversation about those thresholds because I think it's going to change per species. It's going to be there's going to be ought to be some discretion on the land managers to decide what's an issue and what's worth their time and energy to go after. So I mean it's going to be I think a tough conversation or something that just needs to be an open conversation to figure out what makes sense. But I'm also like oppositely, I'm trying to find an instance that you're suggesting where the land could actually be overly managed by managing invasive species in a native environment. So like just say somebody's going around with a wand and says, oh, there's a garlic mustard or whatever, and they pull that, or someone goes around and say, oh, there's some buckthorn, I can cut it and dab it while I'm out here. So I'm just curious in your mind, what's overly managing an area when it's a targeted invasives approach?
So I hear what you're saying. I guess I'm more concerned about just the cumulative effect of chemicals. So if you're just going around and pulling garlic mustard, fine. But if you're putting lots of chemicals in, even if you do cut and dab, it gets in the stem, it gets in the soil. You are, killing microbes as well as killing that plant. So there are cumulative effects, I think, of these chemicals over time that we should be a little concerned about. And usually we're not. We're not usually worried about the soil and microbes and fungi, but the more you learn about that, the more they connect everything for a healthy biome. And I'm just concerned about the use of chemicals, not the hand pulling. So I'd
Right.
also like to see a condition, and I think we've done this before, where if invasive control is happening, hand pulling or non-chemical approaches are the first approach. Obviously, I mean that's kind of common sense, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. And again, like, yeah, the program could take many different forms. It can be, managed in many different ways. And the fact that, we just don't really have a shared understanding of what's on the ground now, and what's the makeup of those no touch areas.
Now, no, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I'm thinking of like McClellan. So we have a no-mow zone there, hopefully now. We have no touch areas. We don't do invasive control there. We just let it go. Now, is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. We do plant some natives, to help that whole habitat. I personally planted natives there. I've planted some little trees and shrubs. But we don't do invasive control. And is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. So I hear what you're saying. So, and I was like, setting a threshold bothers me too, because I don't know what to set. It would be just off the top of my head, not based on data. So maybe it should go back to what you said, David, that it should be monitoring. And if they see a problem, because, they've got some really smart people there that are managing this, this golf course. And if they see a problem, they come back to the commission and say, hey, we're seeing buckthorn all through this side of Herbert Brook. We've got to start taking care of it because it's going to overrun everything,
All right.
and they just come to David. So it doesn't have to come back to the commission.
Right.
So Susan, I don't know if you
Yeah.
finished, David. I'm not going to cut
Yeah, I'm
in if
done.
you aren't finished, David.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to say, I think the plan works. I think that when you're into buckthorn, if we were to use your plan, where they just stay out of it until something starts happening, it's a problem. Buckthorn comes out real easy when it's young. You can just pull it right out. And when it's, I don't know, an inch or less, 3/4 of an inch, you're not going to get that tree out of there. So the same thing, you don't want to have knotweed or Phragmite establish itself. And so that could be hand pulling. And so they do have to go in every time they think about it or when they recognize a plant budding out and make a note and then go in there. And I'm not saying treating it, but by allowing them to go in when they see fit, it'll be hand pulling. If you wait too long, such as Japanese knotweed, the only thing, I mean, those roots are like 15 feet down. The only thing you can do is treat it. There's no other way to take care of it. So, and I also don't think that we should be designing their project. If you want more detail, we should send them back and get us some more detail and not go into it ourselves. But I think the plan works good because unlike a homeowner project, unlike a project down at by McLennan Plaque, which is smothered by Phragmite, and there's an occasional something going on in there, and that's the area that you just said you're letting go. This is an opportunity to turn this area over time. I don't know if that's 5, 10 years or whatever, into a stretch of native plants along Herbert Meyer Brook. And so I think that we have professionals on staff. They have more than one. It sounds like from what I'm hearing, it's very close to the clubhouse. It's very close to where the action is. They're going to want it to look good also. And we've just given them an opportunity to totally upgrade this place. And these plants with natives and some of our direction. So that's how I feel about it. The threshold I would say is going to be set by the professional. And the professional right now is a licensed applicator and probably an arborist and a lot of other credentials Blaine has. So yeah, I'm done. I think that I wouldn't go with what you're saying. I don't think David Kaplan would. I'm not sure if David White has a comment, but
Just to clarify, I wasn't saying they couldn't go hand pull. My concern is the chemicals, the cumulative effect of chemicals.
oh, I know, and I knew that, but I don't think it was clear because you said there's
Okay.
a threshold, so when they can go in there, leave it
Right,
alone
and then
until
I
the threshold
backtracked
is
on the threshold after talking with David, but yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's how the sausage is made. All right,
Mhm.
great, Susan. So let's find out at this point if we want to have any more comments. I don't think anyone's here that would have a comment that's in a butter. So if there's any comments or motions to close this hearing.
So moved.
In a second,
I'll second it.
Just for
David White,
clarification,
second.
which hearing?
So we're going to close on my agenda. The first one is
910374.
374. Is that Susan?
Yes,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
We're going to go and close 91374. I had a first and a second. Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
and Chuck Troney says yes. Okay.
Before you ask for a motion for the next one, how do we do, it's a procedural question. If we're requesting an updated invasive plant management plan, how do we do that if we close the hearing?
So to me, I actually highlighted everything on the invasive plan. It just seems to be a couple of words on the first page, one word, a few edited, who some professionals put in some dates. I'm already on to the third page. The only thing on the third page that came up were two things. Broadcast sprayer is out, and when I saw landscape areas, I wanted those to incorporate all of the areas that we're talking about that have been planted or have been set aside to be naturalized. So both sides of the stream, underneath the putting area, down by the pool, down by the parking lot, all of those will be part of the invasive management plan. So they should monitor all areas for invasive management, including the T area up top. So any planting that's been proposed either on this notice of intent or the next one is going to be monitored for invasives.
And if I could just jump in too, I think the only reason we really made that specification in the plan was just to make sure it was clear that it wasn't just limited to what was called out as invasive species management area adjacent to the pool. It wasn't to just segregate those areas and exclude anything else. I just wanted to make sure no one thought it was just that little narrow band adjacent to the swimming pool. So I think that is certainly logical. The club is not going to put the effort into monitoring for invasives in one area and let something, bittersweet start choking out trees right down the road. So I think that's
I know you couldn't see it, but on page 2, so I'm not even going to bother holding this up. It shows the putting green and all that there. But the only thing you highlighted was the hatched area. And so under what I've just asked you to do is to also highlight the new planting area and the area that incorporated the
we probably don't even need to highlight anything. We can just say the plan, like the area of work or something like that. But like I said, I was just trying to make it clear that we weren't excluding that no maintenance zone because of the labeling on the plan that we had submitted. So I'm happy to just remove that exhibit altogether. And it's just clear that, the whole area would be monitored for invasives.
So all planting within both notices of intent, all restoration areas will be monitored for invasives under both notices of intent.
Yeah, because it behooves the club to not let something go rampant in a newly planted area. So
no, I get that, but it's that established area that you have formally had hands-free, that we want that to have some sort of monitoring at this point. So I
Yeah.
get if you're just planting something, and something by the tee, you wouldn't want to let it go wild. All right.
And
Susan, it was
it's-
your question. What do you think with that explanation?
I think that's okay, and we would require that be submitted to David Morgan as a condition of the permit. Is that what we're saying? Because we don't have it now.
I think
Not a
it does
condition.
typically
So
work.
what
If
we're
it's like-
saying is until David gets this information and he's satisfied that it meets the intent of the Conservation Commission, he does not issue the order of
So
conditions,
he
even
holds
though
it.
we're,
Okay.
yeah,
So
so
we
he
can
holds it.
close and still accept this information that we requested.
Yeah, and you can also tell David to run it past you, so you want to see
Yeah.
it too. It's just fine with me, you know,
Okay.
if you want to have a second
Yeah.
set of
And
eyes
I
on
was just
it.
asking procedurally. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
and
that go ahead.
the applicant is happy to submit it. We can use that email where you have access to the chair and vice chair, and you'll be able to see it. What we have done on other projects is, commissions have been okay with closing, but there are a few minor T's to cross, I's to dot, things like that. Closing the hearing and approving the project contingent upon receipt of
Right.
X, Y, and Z remaining items. And then we
That
just,
sounds good.
just work through the agent and copy
Okay.
whomever would like to be on those final submissions.
Okay, so it would be that plan and also the
The full extent.
the full extent that
Yeah.
David Kaplan requested on the plan, right?
Yes.
All right.
Got it. I'm okay with that.
Do you want to go to conditions for the tee box? Or you want to close the other one and then talk about conditions for all of them at the same time?
Yeah, I think the
Okay.
conditions will probably be consistent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion to close 910376?
So moved.
The
I'll second
second,
it.
that was David White, Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
Chuck Tironi says yes. Okay. So now thinking about both of them, these conditions will be on both orders of conditions, I guess, if that's how we're doing this. What are the conditions from the Conservation Commission? I wrote down a few here. Take no broadcast spraying. It will be allowed in this area. And I don't know how to say this other than how David Kaplan said it. He would want the full extent of the work on the plans. So we see all the areas.
Would that be a condition or would that just be, we're approving it contingent on receiving that information?
And I think, and secondly, we'd want to see that and approve, not we, but the David Morgan would want to see that and make sure it's correct before we
Okay.
issue the order of conditions.
Okay. I'd also like a condition for the invasive management that hand pulling is the first approach whenever possible before
Mhm.
chemicals are used. We have standard conditions that say this, but I just want to repeat them here because it's important that mitigation plantings, which these are in perpetuity. We say that they have to be monitored for 3 years, and reports go annually to David Morgan, but they're in perpetuity since their mitigation. So those areas have to be maintained that way. The same with the invasive monitoring and control is in perpetuity.
And just to clarify, Susan, the reporting would be for 3 years, but
Right.
obviously the
And then
maintenance
the
of these
work
areas
is
would
in
be-
perpetuity.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes sense.
3 growing seasons, usually we say,
Yeah.
because we don't know when you're going to be planting and yeah.
Just in terms of trying to get a COC eventually.
Right.
Just so it's clear, the
Right,
reporting requirements.
right.
Okay.
Reporting is just for 3
So
growing
are we going to
seasons.
hold that to the certificate of compliance? I mean, as that came up on our last one.
Yeah, we
Because I
always
would say
we do that.
invasive monitoring is 5 years, not 3.
Okay. For reporting.
Yeah, I think we'd want
Yeah,
to know. I mean,
reporting.
it's usually
Okay.
5 years.
Okay.
So does that mean the commission can't issue a COC until 5 years has elapsed?
Yeah, that's what I want. I mean, that came up tonight. I want to know what the commission thinks. Like, we find ourselves in the same position that we did on Forest Street. What would we say if it was 3 years and there were 2 years left? Would we um,
I think we haven't done 5 years before. I understand
No.
your reasoning, but I don't think we've done 5 years. We've always done
not
3.
my
So-
reasoning. It comes
Well-
right out of DCR. It's
Oh, really?
all
DCR says
invasive.
5 years?
5 years for treatments for invasives. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. David Morgan has his hand up.
I have two thoughts on this. One, we don't have that in the regs currently. You're certainly at will to ask, and the applicant can agree to whatever, but I want to note that if we pursue this, should change the regs such that it's reflected there. And two, it's beyond the timeline of the permit. The permit's only going to last for 3 years. So I see some conflict with the timelines.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering
So
how
the
the
permits for
COC would work.
the permits for the work and the monitoring invasive removal is in perpetuity. Anytime we approve that, it would be in conflict. How do you justify those two things? Like on any
That's a
permit?
fair point.
Though I think he's talking about the reporting, but yeah, I see your point.
Well, I think there
I-
can be conditions in perpetuity as part of
Right.
an order,
Right.
but it shouldn't necessarily hold up the commission's ability to issue a COC at the 3-year mark or whatever the growing season requirement is or monitoring
Yeah.
requirement.
Yeah, I guess we just don't have a boilerplate condition to say, yeah, in 3 years we'll consider, if conditions are right, we'll consider issuing a certificate of compliance, but you'll still be obligated for 2 more years of monitoring and reporting. I mean, maybe David can work on something that somewhat sounds like that.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I don't know enough about, landscape and growth and invasives to really disagree. I'm just talking about it from a logistics standpoint. I mean, the fact that they should both be 3 years is just easier to to implement, I think, for the agent too. I don't know. I guess I don't see. I don't know enough about it, Chuck.
It's
So,
fine. It's all about success, but if it's easier to think 3 years, I'm okay with it because it is 10:30.
right. And you know what? And they're gonna do it in perpetuity, and they have a horticulturist on staff. So,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
one
feel
project
good
where I
about
really
it.
think
Feel
they'll
good
do
about
it.
it. Let's just
Yeah,
move
they'll
on.
do it.
Next
Yeah.
condition.
Okay, 3 years for both. Reporting, but in perpetuity. Okay. Then I just had one more question. Sorry for this is our standard condition is no rodenticides and pests for pest control. I don't know what you currently do, but no rodenticides in resource areas. So that would be within 100 feet of Herbert Brook. No, 200 feet. So I don't know if that's what you do now on Winchester Country Club, how you control pests. Do you do some kind of food thing, something safer than SGAR or
Susan,
FGAR or those kind of
Susan,
nasty things.
just make a condition. Just
So we're gonna
do
do
you need
that.
their
I'm
permission?
asking them because I
Yeah,
don't
I
want to
know
make a
why.
condition they
Why?
can't
Can
do.
we just move on?
Okay.
Can you just
All
say the
right.
condition and move on?
Okay. The condition of our standard conditions is no rodenticides.
Okay.
Yeah.
They can appeal if they don't like it.
Okay.
Any other conditions? So it's the updates to the invasive plan. What we talked about here tonight are standard conditions, and I think that Susan hit the ones that usually come up. David Morgan, anything else that you would want to add thinking about this project?
I think we've covered it.
Okay. Any other comments or motions from the commission? If not, yeah, comments and motions. And this is for 0376.
Right.
Motion to issue an order of conditions with the discussed conditions.
Second, David White, second, Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
and Chuck Troni says yes. I'm sorry, it's late. Did we issue the first one, 0374?
Not yet.
We did.
No,
Not
we
yet.
just
Okay.
closed it. Yeah.
Good. Can someone give me a motion to close 0374?
We
It has been
closed it. We
closed.
just need to
No,
approve it.
sorry, to issue it.
Again, motion to issue a order of conditions, including the discussed conditions.
I'll second it.
David White seconds. Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
and Chuck Troni says yes. Well, we survived. I know.
We did it.
Jeez.
Yay!
You survived. Mhm.
Thanks, Sarah, and your whole team.
Thank you,
because
everyone.
Yeah, Sarah,
It's been
you're
a pleasure
great.
to work with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Looking forward to working with you.
Yeah, it'll be
Yes.
great. I think it'll be
Yes.
really nice.
I want to
and
come out and see it after you do everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
a couple of years.
Okay.
I'm excited to see it.
I'm looking
And
forward to
I feel like we came a long way from the first meeting where I didn't have a voice and
Mm.
we were struggling, but your input has been extremely valuable and we look forward to continued work together. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good night.
Good
Have a good
night.
night.
Good night. All right. I don't think there's anything else on the agenda. I'm getting a nod from David Morgan, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move. Adjourn.
There you go, second, and Susan seconds, and we'll just give the old hand
I think we all
wave,
agree.
four horsemen hand wave. Okay, we'll see you later.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Yep, bye now.